At the entrance to our residential complex, my sister-in-law was startled by an ambulance. She collapsed to the ground, wailing and screaming, and refused to get up no matter how we tried to calm her. Afraid of delaying the rescue, I dragged my sister-in-law to the side of the road to clear the way for the ambulance. In her emotional meltdown, my sister-in-law shoved me in a frantic state, causing me to fall and hit a stone table. Despite my threatened miscarriage, my husband and his family left me behind and took my sister-in-law out to help her relax. I lost my life and my unborn child because I wasn't taken to the hospital in time. When I was reborn, my sister-in-law was lying at the entrance to our residential complex, wailing, I think I'll just stay out of it. Baby, I'm here. Don't cry. My husband Chin Kuan's voice rang in my ears, but I knew he wasn't calling for me. He was calling for his younger sister, Chin Bao Bao. The scene before me was surreal. At the entrance to our residential complex, my sister-in-law was lying on the ground, thrashing her legs and flailing her arms. Her body was convulsing in spasms, as if she were on the verge of passing out. An ambulance was parked right in front of her. Several people in white coats were trying to talk to her, while onlookers pointed and whispered, "Isn't this the same situation where my sister-in-law blocked the ambulance in my previous life? Could it be that I've been reborn in my previous life?" It was the same scene. No matter how much the medical staff on the ambulance or the patient's family pleaded, my sister-in-law refused to get up. Anyone who touched her would trigger a sharp, piercing scream. The reason was that she was walking while looking down at her phone, colliding head-on with the ambulance. The ambulance, in a hurry, sounded its siren, and she immediately went crazy, lying on the ground and refusing to get up. "Don't touch her. My sister is a high-needs child. You have to be patient," Chin Kuan shielded his sister-in-law, refusing to let anyone near, calling a grown woman a baby. "My father fell and his head is bleeding badly. Let the ambulance through." The patient's family member was a burly man, over 6 feet tall and easily over 200 pounds, sweating profusely with anxiety. "Could you please move aside? We need to get the patient to the hospital. Please help," the female doctor also pleaded. Wringing her hands, the sister-in-law paid no heed, her cries growing louder and more piercing. "Get out of my way, or I won't hold back." The patient's family member was frantic, grabbing my husband and throwing him forcefully. He stumbled a few steps and fell toward the crowd, which quickly parted to make way. Chin Kuan fell heavily to the ground and couldn't get up for a while. The patient's family member reached for my sister-in-law. I was afraid she would get hurt, so I quickly bent down and scooped her up. She seemed a bit scared too and cooperated as I lifted her, dragging her quickly to the grass by the roadside. Seeing the road clear, the ambulance driver hurried through. The group didn't bother with my sister-in-law anymore, and the onlookers dispersed. Just as I straightened up and breathed a sigh of relief, my sister-in-law suddenly lunged at me with a fierce look. I instinctively sidestepped, but her hand had already landed heavily on my shoulder. I cried out and fell toward the stone table, where my left side was slammed hard. A wave of intense pain hit me, nearly knocking me unconscious. "It's all your fault. You made me look like a fool." My sister-in-law laid into me without hesitation. Just then, Chin Kuan came hobbling over, one hand pressed to his side. "Honey," I called out to him through the pain, but he ignored me completely. He scooped his sister up in his arms and strode off towards his father's house. I had no choice but to grit my teeth and shuffle after them, step by agonizing step. A heavy, dragging pain in my lower abdomen made me suspect something was wrong. My father-in-law's house is on the first floor, with a private courtyard and entrance. After much effort, I finally climbed the steps, opened the door, and saw the whole family happily preparing to go out. As she passed by me, my sister-in-law glared at me fiercely, her arms around my mother-in-law and my husband, her face full of triumph. "It's you who made me look bad. I hate you." She stuck her nose in the air, made a face at me, then turned to Chin Kuan and whined, "Brother, let's not take her to dinner. She deserves to be punished." To my surprise, Chin Kuan actually nodded. His sister grabbed his arm and pulled him toward the door. "Chin Kuan, I have a stomachache," I called out, trying to stop him. "I'll be right back. Just lie down for a bit," Chin Kuan said, not even turning his head, afraid of upsetting his sister as he brushed me off. "Xiaochen, you stay here. It's hard to calm the baby when she's upset. I'm sorry to ask this of you." My father-in-law hastily left to catch up with them. I tried to call out to Chin Kuan, but as I took 2 steps forward, I felt a sudden warmth between my legs, as if my body was being torn in half. My head slammed to the ground, and everything went black. They closed the courtyard gate as they left. I lay on the steps for the entire afternoon, unnoticed. A miscarriage had caused massive bleeding, and within a few hours, I had lost all my blood. It wasn't until around midnight that they finally returned home, well-fed, well-wined, and well-sung. It had been overcast all afternoon, so the solar lights in the courtyard were dim. My sister-in-law was running ahead, probably eager to see the results of my punishment, and she hastily climbed the steps. Ah, what on earth is this? Her foot landed on the back of my hand. It felt soft. She let out a shriek and threw herself into Chin Kuen's arms as the porch light flickered on. 2 screams pierced the courtyard. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law, they had never seen so much blood in their lives. Tisk, I always said she was no good. You can tell just by looking she's not blessed. A perfectly fine house, and she's gone and ruined the feng shui. When my usually kind mother-in-law said something like that, I knew from the beginning that I was wrong. In their words, I was willful for not joining the family dinner, and it was my own fault for falling, no one else to blame. Chin Kuen quickly disposed of my property, married another woman, and after over a year of marriage, he got a windfall inheritance. I became the icing on the cake for their family, enabling them to live a more harmonious and happy life, but I couldn't accept it. Perhaps heaven couldn't stand it anymore, and it allowed me to be reborn. This time, I want to see the high-maintenance child educated by society, too. Get out of my way, or I won't be polite anymore. The patient's family has already started attacking Chin Kuen. I quickly stepped aside. The most important thing now is to protect myself. When the patient's family grabbed my sister-in-law's hair, she was instantly terrified and reached out to me. Sister-in-law, save me quickly. Goodness, weren't you always calling me Xiao Chen? You said sister-in-law was hard to say and awkward, but now you've changed. I screamed in terror, took a few steps back, and covered my face, peeking through my fingers. The patient's family members aren't to be trifled with either. They were so furious that they swung their arms and delivered a few slaps, instantly swelling my sister-in-law's face. Meanwhile, Chin Kuen also tried to stop them, but he was too frail and no match for the others. He had barely rushed up when he was kicked several yards away. The sister-in-law was beaten to the point of wailing like a banshee, which only further incensed the crowd. The onlookers did nothing to stop it, instead filming the scene on their phones. The doctor, however, was much more sensible. He told the patient's family, take it somewhere else to fight, and clear the way. The ambulance passed through, and Chin Kuen's parents arrived on the scene, refusing to let go of the attackers. They called the police and summoned more people, creating quite a commotion. I stopped Chin Kuen, who was in an agitated state, and said, I have a stomachache. I need to go to the hospital first. He mumbled something incoherent and then ignored me. I went outside, hailed a taxi, and headed straight to the hospital where my best friend Sushi was. After I finished telling her what happened, Sushi was silent for a moment before asking, are you really not keeping the baby? What about keeping the child and leaving the father? No, I can't have anything to do with this family. They're too much to handle. The child would just be a weapon they could use against me. My eyes welled up, and I couldn't go on. I only have myself to blame for being so blind and letting things get this far. I truly don't dare to keep this child, not with their family's freakish genes running through it. 3 hours later, I sent Chin Kuen a message. The doctor said the shock was too much for me. I've lost the baby. He didn't reply. He didn't even read it. I guess things must be in complete chaos over there, which suits me just fine. When Chin Kuen and I first started dating, he told me that his sister was a high-maintenance person, sensitive, stubborn, and in need of a lot of reassurance and care. It was the first time I'd heard the term, high-maintenance baby. After looking it up, I was left with a question mark in my mind. The term originally refers to infants, but at over 20 years old, calling her a high-maintenance baby just seemed like a way to excuse a spoiled brat. I'm the complete opposite. I was born into a patriarchal family where I was never valued. I started boarding school in elementary school, and my relationship with my family could only be described as distant. Not only did I not have high demands, but even my basic needs were never met. That's why I deliberately chose to develop my career in a city Far from home after graduating from university, to avoid any further connection with my birth family, Chin Kuan is my colleague. Aside from being a bit of a sister-obsessed guy, he's actually quite a catch in other respects. We work together, his professional competence is well known, he doesn't smoke or drink, and has no bad habits. After visiting his home just once, I was drawn in by the harmonious atmosphere. Isn't this the kind of home I've always dreamed of? As for having a somewhat spoiled sister-in-law, I've weighed it up and think I can live with it. After all, nobody's perfect. His parents are both highly educated, especially his mother, who is a psychology expert, so I don't really want to make a fuss about it. I'll just go with the flow. I console myself by thinking it's certainly better than a family that favors sons over daughters. Besides, Chin Kuan and I have our own place. We occasionally come back on weekends to have a meal together, which is no big deal. As for Chin Kuan indulging his sister, that's his own business. I've always been independent and not particularly fond of clinging to him, which gives us both personal space. Little did I know it was a one-sided wish, and it could lead to a life-threatening situation. I underestimated my sister-in-law's destructive power. Sushi directly arranged for me to be hospitalized. I originally had a few small tumors, and this time they were all taken care of. Just like a break, my sister-in-law's side was quite a scene. She was badly beaten, and since her face had been surgically altered, the implants were knocked out, and the time it took to get reshaped was longer than my short postpartum recovery. I kept tabs on the situation by checking her social media updates every day. I didn't go to the hospital to see her until I had fully recovered. Both my in-laws were in the hospital room. When they saw me walk in, their faces immediately fell. "Xiao Chen, I heard you had a miscarriage," my mother-in-law asked, her tone laced with disapproval. It was the shock. By the time I got to the hospital, it was already too late, I said with a deliberate sigh, casting a resentful glance at my sister-in-law. "You're so useless. I got beaten up, and you didn't help. You're so scared you could have a miscarriage." My sister-in-law was looking for someone to vent her anger on and went straight for me. "Where's Chin Kuan?" I lowered my eyes. Not engaging with my sister-in-law's words, I let her have her 3 moves first. "I had important matters to attend to. He's gone for a period of study," my mother-in-law replied without looking up. "I was in the hospital for a month, and Chin Kuan only visited 3 times, each visit rushed and brief. He didn't even pick me up when I was discharged. Seems all his time is spent on his precious sister. Since he doesn't treat me like family, then he shouldn't be surprised when I stop playing nice. I haven't filed for divorce immediately because the current situation isn't in my favor. Chin Kuan and I jointly purchased a property, and we have various other investments. A hasty divorce would make the asset division a messy ordeal. Furthermore, even though I survived this time, I'm haunted by nightmares every night. This grievance demands more than just a simple divorce. It calls for payback. I'll start by playing hard to get. Let's see how this high-maintenance princess gets a taste of reality." To our surprise, we were given a rude awakening as soon as we got home. The rose wall painstakingly cultivated by my mother-in-law was destroyed, the wooden door was askew, and all the windows were shattered. Fortunately, there were burglar bars, or else the furniture inside might have been ruined as well. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law, furious, called the property management. The property manager sighed, his eyes filled with meaning. "They've lost one family member, another is locked up, and the old woman left behind is out of her mind. How are we supposed to keep an eye on her?" It turned out to be retaliation from that patient's family. The old man didn't make it and passed away, the son got locked up for assault, and my sister-in-law refused to settle, so he's still in there. The old woman was so traumatized she's gone a bit mad. Those with nothing to lose fear nothing. "We can't stay here anymore, let's go to Xiao Kuan's place." My mother-in-law knew which way the wind was blowing, so the 3 of them just moved right into my house. "I'm taking the master bedroom," my sister-in-law announced the moment she stepped inside. At her place, she takes the master bedroom, so naturally, she doesn't stand on ceremony when she comes to mine. "No problem," I thought to myself with a chuckle. "If you asked for the moon, I'd get it for you. I'll spoil you." "Sure. How hard can that be?" The family had a meeting that evening. "Xiao Chen, you're the most sensible one. Our baby has been deeply hurt this time. She's been cyberbullied." "Seriously? Call the police," I exclaimed with exaggerated shock. "Won't work." My sister-in-law shot me a glare. I thought to myself with a cold laugh, they're just stating the facts. You did block the ambulance. Of course, calling the police is pointless. Then what should we do? I asked, looking at my sister-in-law with a sympathetic expression. The baby needs to transfer schools. I've already arranged it. She'll be going to yours. You'll have to look out for her. Oh, my jaw dropped. Could this really be happening? The university where I work is a second-tier institution. My sister-in-law had always looked down her nose at me for it. She conveniently ignored the fact that her own brother worked there too, just doing research, as if that made him so much better. Turns out, my sister-in-law had been attending the same university where my in-laws were professors. She made quite a name for herself there, tarnishing the old couple's reputation so badly she had to transfer out. That very night, I posted on my social media, "My dearest sister-in-law is coming to our school. I'll make sure to take good care of you, love you, come to my school for lunch tomorrow noon." This was sent to Sushi, for I arranged the best dormitory for my sister-in-law. She, who had always been a day student, surprisingly agreed to live on campus. I arrived early at the cafeteria and secured a spot. Sushi arrived early too. "Did your sister-in-law transfer schools because of online bullying?" Sushi's voice was loud, and I quickly signaled her to lower it. A few colleagues around us still gave us strange looks. My sister-in-law has always been closest to me. I treat her like a real sister, so of course, I keep her by my side. I smiled sweetly and waved to my sister-in-law who was walking over. My sister-in-law was unhappy that I brought Sushi to dinner and didn't even greet us. She just ate while playing with her phone. "How are you getting along with your dorm mates?" I asked with concern. "Is there anything money can't solve?" My sister-in-law said without even looking up, her tone dismissive. I was actually starting to look forward to the show. I had no idea where she got such confidence. My in-laws' income was only slightly higher than an average working-class family's, not even solidly middle-class. The only difference was that the entire family's earnings were spent on her alone, which made her seem more privileged than her classmates. I was going to show her that there's always a bigger fish in the sea. Sure enough, that afternoon, she called and summoned me to her dorm room. The people living in this dorm are no ordinary folks. I did my homework. The room is spacious, south-facing, and has a large semicircular balcony, the famous princess balcony. I had to take the logistics director out for a meal and repeatedly assure him that my sister-in-law is a quiet, well-behaved girl before I could secure the spot. This dorm previously housed 3 people. The second daughter of a nouveau riche family who loved throwing her money around, the dean's own daughter who rarely stayed and was basically just on the roster, and a minor influencer, a beauty vlogger. For the most part, the 3 coexisted peacefully. The influencer would cozy up to the rich girl, while the dean's daughter was often absent. Today everyone's here, all 4 of us, and tensions are high. Today it's either her or me. My sister-in-law pointed at the second young lady as I walked in. What's going on?" I wanted to find out first. "I don't know what's going on either. Every step I take, she complains it's too noisy." The second young lady looked at me with a half-smile. "Anyway," she said, "it's either her or me or her. I'll pay 10,000 to get her out of here." The second young lady loves to throw money around, and I like that. "I'll offer 20,000. My sister-in-law exploded on the spot. 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, 300,000. Keep it up." The influencer and the principal's daughter chimed in, egging them on. "Don't stop now." The influencer discreetly started her live stream, and I pretended not to notice. 500,000. The second young lady wanted to settle it quickly. 1 million. After my sister-in-law shouted, I almost fell to my knees and quickly rushed to cover her mouth. "Granny, stop arguing. It's pointless. Let's just drop it." "Why should we drop it? What are you talking about?" "Call my mom right now and have her prepare the money. I'm determined to win this battle today." "All right, don't name a price yet. Let me call Mom." I turned and walked into the hallway, suppressing a laugh as I went to fetch my in-laws. My in-laws had always sheltered my sister-in-law too much, never giving her a chance to spend big, so when she casually dropped 1 million, they were stunned and rushed to the school as fast as they could. "What's going on? Who's picking on our baby?" my in-laws shouted the moment they stepped through the door. "It's her." I was trying to nap, and she kept pacing around. The moment my sister-in-law saw her family, she pointed at the second young miss and started wailing at the top of her lungs. Her mouth opened so wide I could see her uvula. Darling, don't cry, Mama's here. My mother-in-law pulled my sister-in-law into a hug, while my father-in-law was absolutely fuming. Classmates should be kind to each other. How could you disturb someone's rest? Hey old man, are you blind? Look what slippers I'm wearing. How could they possibly make any noise? The second young lady, a dancer with solid fundamentals, lifted her leg and practically stuck her foot right under her father-in-law's nose. They were a pair of fluffy bunny slippers, with soft fur even on the soles. It'd be a miracle if they made a sound. The eunuch tried to argue stubbornly, but a shoe was shoved into his mouth and nose. His nose tickled terribly, and he let out a massive sneeze. The students who had gathered to watch the commotion had crowded around the doorway in thick layers. Seeing this, they all burst into loud laughter. Picking a fight with our second young miss, you've just kicked a steel plate, trying to compete with the second young miss in wealth. If you don't have a mirror, go take a piss and look at your reflection. Well, you really do see all sorts in this world. What an eye-opener. The classmates outside the door started jeering. While they usually couldn't stand the second young miss's arrogance, she at least had the means to back it up. The sister-in-law, on the other hand, clearly had nothing going for her. All bark and no bite. It was no wonder they all ganged up to mock her. Mom, look, they're all bullying me. The sister-in-law wailed even louder. All right, we'll stop picking on you. But remember, you were the one who said if you could come up with $1 million, I'd pack up and slink out of here immediately. The second young miss was clever. She could tell the sister-in-law didn't have the money and was just toying with her. $1 million? What million? The in-laws sounded flustered. Your daughter said she'd pay $1 million to get me out of this dorm. Now I agree, you pay, and I'll leave. The second young lady said with a smile. Give her the money and get her out of here. As soon as my sister-in-law heard, she quickly wiped away her tears and instructed her mother-in-law. Baby, $1 million is a bit much. Her mother-in-law backed down, glaring at me fiercely. I told you to take good care of the baby. How did you do it? When we were looking for a dorm, you said we needed one with good conditions and high-quality roommates. This is the best dorm in the entire school, and I worked really hard to get it. I said timidly, I don't care, just give her $1 million and get her out of here. My sister-in-law twisted like a pretzel, desperately shaking her parents' arms. The kids were just joking. Don't take it seriously, you should get along. $1 million yuan isn't something you just pull out of thin air. The father-in-law quickly stepped in to smooth things over, asking them to cough up $1 million for a dorm bed. They'd rather die first. Your daughter said it herself. $1 million yuan, no one forced her. That's right, she said it. If she won't pay up, she can get out. The classmates who were watching the drama started to jeer and egg them on. My in-laws are both highly educated and have always been very concerned about their reputation. Even though my sister-in-law has been a handful since she was little, they've always shielded her well. Any trouble she caused was contained and resolved quietly within the family circle. Now, it feels like the sky has fallen. They're completely out of their depth and momentarily stunned, but no matter what, they absolutely cannot pay that $1 million. That's their non-negotiable bottom line. Thinking this, the old couple exchanged a glance and hatched a plan. First, they'd get their daughter out of there. A classic stalling tactic. Sweetheart, Mommy bought you that new bag you wanted, the limited edition. Come home with me and see it, my mother-in-law began, deftly changing the subject. Well, a tactical retreat. Smooth move. So when am I getting that $1 million? I need to call the movers. The second daughter wasn't about to let her off the hook and kept pushing her buttons. The sister-in-law had never been treated with such disrespect. Seeing that even her parents weren't on her side, her temper flared, and she completely lost her cool. Are you going to give me the money or not? She snarled, grabbing her mother-in-law by the collar. 5. The mother-in-law was startled and stared blankly at her daughter-in-law. As if she didn't dare recognize her own daughter, she quickly turned to her husband for help. Baby, don't get excited. We can talk. The father-in-law was almost on his knees. No discussion. Give me $1 million. The daughter-in-law's last shout was almost hoarse at that moment. Qin Kun squeezed out from the crowd. He had just returned from a business trip and heard about the trouble, so he hurried over as fast as he could. Hurry, take the baby home. The in-laws suddenly saw their mainstay and gave Qin Kun a meaningful look. Qin Kun picked up his sister-in-law and headed outside. Being a man, He was strong, but his sister-in-law wasn't having it. She raised her hand and scratched his face, leaving 3 bloody marks. "Brother, you're not helping me either." His sister-in-law broke free from Chin Kuan's arms, roared, and the 3 of them didn't dare to move. "Fine, I see who you really are. Get out of here. I don't need you anymore," his sister-in-law said, turning to the second young lady. "I'll pay you, just wait." "All right, as soon as the money is transferred, I'll move out immediately. But how long do you expect me to wait?" "Don't tell me it's until after graduation." "1 week, and the money will definitely be transferred." "What if it doesn't come through?" "If it doesn't, I'll leave." "If it does, you leave," the sister-in-law spoke slowly and deliberately. "Baby, come home with us. It's so comfortable to live at home." Chin Kuan didn't even dare to wipe the blood from his face before coming over to plead. "Mom will rent a big house for you outside the school, with 4 bedrooms. "Okay." The in-laws began to persuade the sister-in-law, wanting to take her away. "Get out. Can't you understand what I'm saying?" The sister-in-law, with some inexplicable strength, pushed them all out. "As for me, I'm sensible. I didn't wait for her to push me. I just made a quick escape." Arriving at the dormitory downstairs, the 3 of them looked at each other, only then remembering me. "How are you taking care of the baby?" "Chin Kuan was the first to confront me." "Exactly, such a well-behaved child, and in your care for just 2 days. This is what happens." I almost laughed in anger. "Blame me, huh? If you think I'm not taking good care of them, you can do it yourselves. I can't be bothered with them." I'm turning around and leaving. 6. From that day on, my sister-in-law didn't come to see me. I always thought high-needs babies were fragile, but I didn't expect her to be quite assertive after becoming independent. A week later, I heard a surprising piece of news. The second young lady moved out. "That fool gave me $1 million. Haha, can't say no to free money," the second young lady would tell everyone. Unlike my sister-in-law, she has quite the business acumen. Her sister-in-law's brain is smaller than a walnut, yet she thinks she's #1 in the world. This time she's taken over the dormitory, and I hear she's even more arrogant now. That's exactly the effect I wanted. Arrogant people will get their comeuppance. But where did her sister-in-law get $1 million? I'm looking forward to the show. The next day at noon, as soon as I entered the cafeteria, I sensed something was off. Something was happening at the counter, and as expected, my sister-in-law was the main character. How could she use the same spoon for 2 dishes? The textures are different. How can you eat them mixed together like that? The sister-in-law said with righteous indignation. The cafeteria auntie was visibly shocked, and the students hurriedly pulled out their phones, as encountering such a miracle wasn't an everyday occurrence. "This student, don't cause trouble, okay? We serve thousands of meals a day. It's impossible to change spoons for every dish. If you think the flavors aren't right, go home and have your mom cook for you. We can't cater to everyone." The cafeteria auntie finally managed to articulate her thoughts. "What kind of attitude is that? I paid for your service. Sorry, with the amount of money you have, you can only get this tiny bit of service. For anything else, you'll need to pay extra." The cafeteria auntie pinched her thumb and index finger together and sneered. The onlookers all burst into laughter. "I've never been treated like this my entire life." The sister-in-law threw her tray at the window, splashing the cafeteria auntie all over her face and body. Coincidentally, the cafeteria auntie had also never been treated like this in her life, and she immediately got furious. Just then, someone had just brought a pot of seaweed and egg flour soup. With her natural strength, the cafeteria auntie threw the entire pot of soup, drenching the sister-in-law and making her howl in pain. Seeing her get her comeuppance put my mind at ease, so I made myself scarce and got out of there. 7. My sister-in-law was hospitalized. She had a few reddened areas from a scald, not even broken skin, but my in-laws were absolutely heartbroken. They kept calling me useless for not even being able to look after their daughter properly. They have no idea just how tough and formidable their supposedly delicate and helpless daughter really is. This punishment for my sister-in-law is too light. I will endure hardships and bide my time. Whatever they say, I'll just ignore it and continue to lie low. That day, the 3 of them were at the hospital with my sister-in-law. Despite the doctor's advice, she insisted on having barbecue. I volunteered to go out and buy it. I returned to the ward with bags in hand and overheard them talking about me. "That Xiaochen isn't as straightforward as he seems," mother-in-law sighed. "See, I told you, our family was doing just fine. What's the point of you all insisting my brother has a son? Sister-in-law said with clear dissatisfaction. It's for your own future. We can't look after you forever, we need a younger generation, once we're gone. We'll rest easy knowing there's someone to care for you. It was only then I understood, the reason they wanted to bring an outsider into the family. I was just a tool to produce another tool for my sister-in-law. Once that was done, they'd probably just kick me out. Too bad the workhorse has wised up now. I was just about to push the door open when I heard something else going on inside. What's going on? How did the ambulance incident get dragged up again? My sister-in-law yelled while scrolling through her phone. How did it get posted online? Chin Kuan took a look, and his face changed color. What does posted online mean? The in-laws didn't understand, but knew it wasn't good news, and pressed for an answer. Someone posted about baby on the school forum. They wrote everything, even the incident of blocking the ambulance. Baby transferred schools and got plastic surgery. So how did they still find her? The mother-in-law asked, feeling disheartened and confused initially. Transferring schools and getting plastic surgery was to put the past with sister-in-law behind us. Why didn't it work? No matter how hard they try, they'll never guess the answer. Little did they know, my sister-in-law is lucky to have me, her big sister, in her corner. Can I just say those social media posts were totally on purpose. A while back, this old slacker lost out to me in a promotion review and has held a bitter grudge ever since. He was itching to get back at me, and when my beloved sister-in-law came to study here, it was like handing her right to him on a silver platter. He thought hurting my sister-in-law would be a blow to me. I played right along, posting those woe is me inspirational quotes every day, putting on a show of being deeply wounded, with my enemy pulling out all the stops. My sister-in-law ended up taking the fall without being able to say a word in her defense. The cafeteria lady has a steady hand and is well liked. Students came forward one after another, testifying that my sister-in-law was the one who started the trouble and threw the first punch. So the school stepped in, used her student status as leverage to pressure her, and pushed for a private settlement. The last time we transferred my sister-in-law to a new school, it was a huge ordeal. This time, my in-laws' resources are limited, so we just have to accept the situation. My sister-in-law was deeply shaken by the experience and became more sensitive and irritable. She had only been back at school for 2 days before she got into a physical fight with a classmate. Kids these days have a strong sense of right and wrong. Someone like my sister-in-law needs to be taught a lesson. The school realized the conflict was irreconcilable and, wanting to avoid further trouble, called my in-laws in with the intention of suggesting she withdraw. My in-laws have always cared deeply about their reputation and raised their son, Chin Kuan, very well. They never imagined they'd have to swallow such humiliation in their old age. They had to grin and bear it, and they didn't dare show their true feelings in front of my sister-in-law for fear of setting her off. 8. Our place is small and on a high floor, and my sister-in-law is home all the time. They found it inconvenient, so after discussing it, they decided to move back. Fortunately, the patient's family hasn't come to cause trouble again, but then something even bigger happened. That day was my father-in-law's birthday, and a few old colleagues had agreed to come over for dinner. Originally, my in-laws lived in school dorms where many old colleagues would see each other frequently. It was only because my sister-in-law had a peculiar personality that we interacted less. Recently, my father-in-law has been feeling down and doesn't want to stay home to watch my sister-in-law throw tantrums, so he goes out to avoid her and has reconnected with his old colleagues. Chin Kuan is a very filial son, and he specifically asked me to take leave to help him prepare wine and dishes. I obediently followed his instructions, went to the supermarket with him, bought enough ingredients, and as soon as we entered the neighborhood, I sensed something was off. When people saw Chin Kuan, they averted their eyes, as if he had done something shameful. A huge crowd had gathered outside my father-in-law's building, and from within came the sound of my mother-in-law's wailing. Chin Kuan pushed his way through the crowd, and I followed close behind. I was stunned to see the courtyard littered with a dense scattering of flyers. My father-in-law, drenched in sweat, was still picking up the flyers, bending and straightening up over and over. His face was flushed a deep, alarming red, likely from a spike in his blood pressure. What's going on here? Who did this? Chin Kuan's neck veins bulged as he grabbed a flyer, glanced at it, quickly closed his eyes, and tore it forcefully. The one on the flyer is my sister-in-law. posing in various ways, probably thinking she looks quite beautiful, with a smug expression on her face. "Are you crazy? How could you take such a thing? Are you out of your mind?" The mother-in-law finally remembered the culprit and rushed to her daughter-in-law, who was still eating watermelon on the sofa, and angrily demanded, "Who told you not to give me $1 million? If you don't give it to me, I'll borrow it. I can always get it. You made me lose face, and now it's your turn to lose face," the sister-in-law said confidently. "How could you be so unreasonable?" The mother-in-law was furious and slapped her. The younger sister-in-law's watermelon fell to the ground, and she jumped up, grabbed the mother-in-law's hair, yanked her head down, and then kneed her in the face. The mother-in-law was covered in blood and collapsed weakly. Chin Kun rushed in to help the mother-in-law up and shouted at me, "Quick, call an ambulance." "Why call an ambulance?" I asked knowingly. "Look at the state Mom's in. Hurry up, it's just a nosebleed." "No need for an ambulance, with all the debt your family's in. You should save where you can," I said flatly. Chin Kun wanted to hit me, but if he let go, his mother would fall. He was stuck. "Come and help me," he called out to me again. I pretended not to hear and slowly made my way to the door. My father-in-law was holding hundreds of flyers, his eyes glazed over and bloodshot. "What's going on? What happened?" Lao Chin, my father-in-law's colleagues arrived, some carrying wine, others holding cooked food, and one carrying a birthday peach cake. The father-in-law feebly moved his mouth but couldn't make a sound. "What's this?" An old colleague picked up a flyer from the ground. His eyesight was poor, so he fished out his reading glasses from his pocket, put them on, and studied the flyer carefully. "Ouch!" He flinched as if bitten by a snake. This exclamation alerted the father-in-law, who sprang up like an enraged Tibetan mastiff, pushing the group of people outward with force. It was the ones with unsteady footing. The person carrying the cake stumbled first, and the one behind them landed right on top of it. The onlookers couldn't hold it in anymore and burst out laughing. "Madness, absolute madness. May a thunderbolt strike me dead." The father-in-law had reached his breaking point. He turned around and saw his daughter-in-law standing on the steps, watching with an air of complete detachment, as if none of this had anything to do with her. "Look what you've done. How dare you even show your face?" The father-in-law grabbed his daughter-in-law and began slapping her violently. My sister-in-law was first stunned, then came to her senses and cried out in a trembling voice, "Dad, you don't want me either. You don't love me anymore. I hate you all." 9. My sister-in-law pushed her father-in-law's hand away and rushed out the door. This woke up the entire family. "Xiao Kun, catch up with Bao Bao quickly. She's going to act impulsively. I'm getting senile." "Bao Bao, forgive your dad." The whole family of drama queens rushed out. And surprisingly, the grandma with a bloody nose was leading the pack. I can't miss this drama either, so I followed closely behind. She ran to the man-made lake in the residential complex and, without a moment's hesitation, jumped in. After flailing for a few seconds, she began to sink. Only then did fear set in, and she started waving frantically toward the shore. "Hell, help," she gasped, choking on a mouthful of water with every half-shouted plea. It seemed regret had finally caught up with her. She was used to having a safety net, a high-maintenance individual whose every demand had always been met. The sudden, crushing realization that some things simply can't be fixed or fulfilled shattered her completely. "Quick, someone save her," her mother-in-law shrieked, her voice a piercing, panicked wail. But the onlookers just stood there coldly. No one moved. The weather has turned chilly, and the lake water is freezing. If it were someone else, they would have saved them, but who dares to save the Chin family? Exactly. If they hadn't been saved, they would have sued them into bankruptcy. That's something their family would do. Better to avoid trouble than to get involved. Seeing her sister-in-law's struggles weaken until only a wisp of hair broke the surface, the mother-in-law gave Chin Kun a forceful shove. "What are you staring at? Get in the water and save her." "Mom, I can't swim." Chin Kun was on the verge of tears. "You have to try. That's Bao Bao, your sister, the sister you've held since she was a baby. You'd cry all night if she so much as scraped a finger, and now you'll just watch her drown." The mother-in-law's psychological manipulation was potent. As if possessed, Chin Kun rushed to the lake's edge and plunged in headfirst. He didn't even make it to his sister-in-law's position before he sank. Someone who couldn't stand it anymore found a branch and reached out for him to grab. "What are you doing? This branch is so soft and thin. Can he even get any Leverage, the mother-in-law just kept complaining. Hearing this, the rescuer immediately let go and threw the branch away. What did I tell you? You should never get involved in their family's business. What are you just standing there for? Go help him. The old woman spotted me again. I've already called the police. I waved my phone innocently. You go down and save him. I can't swim. If you push me in, I'll have you charged with murder, I said, deftly dodging to keep out of my mother-in-law's reach. Splash, my father-in-law suddenly collapsed to the ground, motionless. What's wrong? Don't scare me like this. My mother-in-law rushed over and shook him. Then, she turned to look at the gradually calming surface of the lake, let out a wail, and threw herself into the water. The father-in-law had a stroke, and the three of them ended up dead. The news of the Chin family's complete annihilation made headlines. A family should be together in life and death, so I also removed the father-in-law's life support. After burying them, I called my sister-in-law's creditors and handed over my in-law's property to settle the debts. Thus, I became a widow, free of any attachments. I decided to quit my job and travel everywhere. This child is so fussy and cries all the time. He's a high-needs baby. It's exhausting, but he's smarter than most. I overheard a woman whisper. I couldn't help but smile wryly. It seems the old Chinese saying holds true, sparing the rod spoils the child. Indulging and pampering them without restraint is not necessarily a good thing. And, Story 2, I rescued a fox beast man from the black market. Father said signing the contract would make the beast man eternally loyal to me, yet he betrayed me. He carved out my heart with his own hands and offered it to my stepsister. When I opened my eyes again, I'd been reborn to the day I bought him. This time, I generously gifted him to my stepsister, choosing the bloodthirsty werewolf's dark pact instead. Yet his eyes burned crimson. You should have made a contract with me instead. 1. My limbs were nailed to the wooden plank. My contracted orc bared his fox-like claws with a vicious grin, driving them into my heart. As he tore out my still-beating heart, the last flickers of consciousness hadn't left me. I watched as he carried my heart to my stepsister and knelt before her in reverence. My lady, a gift for you. So his loyalty had always belonged to Ezra, my stepsister. As memories sharpened into focus, I was reborn. A fresh batch of beast men arrived in the rowdy black market. Hearing the news, father brought me and my stepsister to the black market. Once contracted, beast men become utterly loyal to their masters. Each of you may choose one. In my past life, I discovered Guhan, battered and bruised, huddled in a corner. Of all the fox beast men in that batch, he was the filthiest and most wretched, his claws caked with blood, a large patch of fur torn from his body. My heart ached for him, so I begged father to purchase him as my beast man, but I didn't know he'd already made a pact with my stepsister before I arrived. His loyalty belonged to her alone. He said his stepsister was kind-hearted. Unlike my arrogant self, he claimed his stepsister suffered bullying just like him. He brutally killed me for his stepsister's sake. After circling around, Ezra led me to a cage of fox beast men. Only then did I realize she'd set this trap in our past life. My encounter with Guhan was probably part of her scheme too. Just like before, Guhan cowered in the cage corner, gazing at me with pitiful eyes. That innocent look of his truly tugged at my heartstrings. Humph. Foxes are cunning creatures, masters of beguiling hearts, Ezra murmured. Sister, that foxkin looks so pitiful. Why don't you buy him? I turned to look at father. I'll take him. Father always doted on me. Though he disapproved of Guhan, that wretched beast man, he still handed the money to the slaver without objecting to my decision. When Guhan was led out of the cage, Ezra clapped for me with a smile. Congratulations, sister. Before she could finish, I thrust Guhan's chain into her hands. Congratulations, little sister, you've acquired a fox beast man. 2. Both froze in place. Ezra glared at me with furrowed brows. Sister, why are you giving me the beast man you purchased? I sneered. Since you're so compassionate and pitied this creature, I bought him for you. Aren't you delighted, father? Does little sister despise my gift? Seeing my father frown, Ezra grew anxious. No, father, that's not it. To maintain her obedient facade before father, Ezra had no choice but to accept Guhan. I chose another werewolf contract. The moment the pact was sealed, Guhan stared at me in disbelief. His eyes burned crimson. Why not me? I should be the one bound to you. Oh, so he's been reborn too. Perfect. This'll make my revenge all the sweeter. Werewolves are fantastic, strong and robust, far superior to those foxy temptresses. His name is Bastion, and the moment he opened his eyes, I could sense the desire burning within him, bloodthirsty eyes burning with boundless hatred. Father feared he'd harm me, but I wasn't the least bit afraid. I've witnessed the vilest of human hearts. What's there to fear from a mere werewolf? I'll form a pact with him and become his master, make him my most loyal wolf cub. 3. After returning home, Azra fetched the finest beast medicine to treat Guhan. With her help, Guhan swiftly regained his formidable combat prowess. I wasn't nearly as kind to Bastion, aside from 3 meals a day. I never gave him a second thought. Bastion's injuries were worse than Guhan's. His right hand was practically useless. That day, I took Bastion for a leisurely stroll in the garden. When my hairpin fell, Bastion bent down to retrieve it and carefully placed it back in my hair. A sudden gust of icy wind swept through. In an instant, Bastion was pinned to the ground by Guhan, taking relentless blows. By the time Azra rushed to the scene, Bastion was already at a disadvantage, weakened by inferior stamina and a wounded right hand. He stood no chance against Guhan. Azra smirked at me triumphantly. Sis, if you don't make your move now, your orc is done for, I sneered, then fixed my gaze on Bastion. Take him down, one shot. Whether he stays with me depends entirely on Bastion's skills. His eyes instantly turned blood red. Oh whoa, with a feral snarl, it bared razor-sharp fangs and lunged at Guhan. He was fighting for his life, a suicidal fighting style. Even in death, he'd make sure Guhan suffered. When it came to life-or-death combat, Guhan hesitated. In an instant, Bastion seized the advantage, his fangs locking onto Guhan. One struggle, and Bastion could snap his neck in a single bite. Azra's triumphant grin twisted into a vicious snarl in an instant. Still green and untempered, she couldn't contain her fury, stamping her feet in helpless rage. Guhan, you worthless trash. After all those rare herbs I've wasted on you, can't even beat a cripple. You're less useful than the damn chickens in the yard. Guhan's pitch-black eyes instantly turned vicious. How could a proud fox tolerate being compared to some pheasant by his beloved master, especially when his master claimed he wasn't even as good as a chicken? I studied Guhan with an amused smile. This was the choice he'd longed for, the innocence and kindness he'd vowed to protect, for Bastion was seriously injured this time. Guhan had flayed the skin clean off his left arm, clearly intending to cripple him permanently. That damn fox, utterly vicious. Since Bastion couldn't use his hands, I applied the medicine myself. This ointment is extremely rare. It accelerates Orcish wound healing dramatically. The downside is its severe side effects. Application causes excruciating pain. Bastion, still too weak to shape-shift back, remaining in his half-orc form, he gritted his teeth without a whimper as I applied the medicine. Only the fur on his wolf-like tail would bristle instantly, utterly adorable. After bandaging his wound, I reached out to gently stroke his bristled tail. Grabbing a tuft of fur, I gave it a light tug. Bastion sprang up instantly, his furious eyes brimming with wounded resentment. Master, a werewolf's tail isn't meant for pulling. I've kept Bastion by my side all this time, yet he's always maintained an icy demeanor, cold as a glacier. This is the first time I've ever seen him show such emotion. That really tickled my fancy. With a grin, I stepped closer and firmly grasped his tail. Why can't I pull it? Care to explain? Bastion's breathing became ragged in an instant. Amused by the moment, I playfully traced circles on his tail with my fingers, then lifted it to sniff curiously before blowing a teasing puff of air. The next instant, Bastion lost control and pinned me down, pressing against me. He brushed his lips against mine before struggling to move them to my ear. Growling through clenched teeth, I said, hands off means hands off. I smiled. So that's why touching tails makes them lose control. 5. Father was the wealthiest merchant in the Northern Territories. Azra came into the family at age 7 when her mother remarried. After buying him from the black market, we barely exchanged more than a few words, let alone developed any real rapport. Her birth name was Nesta, but she took the name Azra after her mother married father. With only Azra and I as father's heirs, he arranged a marriage alliance with Ryder's family to strengthen our lineage. The second son of Ryder's family, young Master Ryder, was both brilliant and strikingly handsome. Marrying him would secure Ryder family's backing and guarantee inheritance of the family fortune. In my past life, I adored Guhan wholeheartedly, never minding that he was a beast folk. On our matchmaking day, Gu-han took me out instead. Ezra seized this chance to attend the arranged meeting with Ryder in my stead. The alliance marriage succeeded, with Ezra gaining the support of Ryder's family. Ezra has been unusually quiet these past few days since Gu-han's defeat, but I know her ambitious nature. She'll never stay docile for long. Tomorrow's the arranged meeting with Ryder. There's no way Ezra can keep her composure, but I never expected Gu-han would be the first to approach me. He blocked my path, stopping me with visible agitation. Please don't go on that blind date with Ryder. Okay, I scoffed, so I should give the chance to Ezra instead. You're really devoted to your master, aren't you? Gu-han stared at me with reddened eyes, shaking his head repeatedly. No, that's not what I meant. As I turned to leave, Gu-han suddenly lunged forward and embraced me. Xena, you're mine. Before he could finish, Bastion came lunging out of nowhere. With a single kick, he sent Gu-han sprawling to the ground. Gu-han immediately grappled with him, but a werewolf's ferocity is no match for a sly fox, especially now that I'd healed most of Bastion's injuries, making him terrifyingly powerful. Gu-han was quickly overpowered. Pinned helplessly beneath Bastion, Bastion gripped his throat, radiating murderous intent from head to toe, his voice dripping with terrifying menace. Set foot here again, and I'll tear you to pieces to feed the pheasants. 6. Tearing someone apart for pheasant feed is such a dull affair. To truly make Gu-han pay, death would be far too merciful. Bastion won the fight, but not without taking some hits. A long gash ran from his chin down to his chest. I brought him back to the room to treat his wounds. Next time, remember to protect yourself even in a fight. I won't accept some shabby werewolf. A deep, muffled groan came from above. Humph. Sensing something amiss, I looked up to see Bastion's wolf tail standing stiffly upright. This is just regular wound medicine. How could it cause such a strong reaction? I looked up at Bastion, only to find his face flushed crimson. Are you in pain? Bastion stared at me with bloodshot eyes. For a moment, he forced himself to look away, clearly in pain. He stubbornly insisted on leaving. He's my orc. I'd never let anything happen to him. I stopped him in his tracks. Bastion, what's wrong? Should I call a doctor? Bastion suddenly turned and pinned me beneath him. Unlike last time, I realized Bastion had lost control. His face flushed crimson, his eyes growing hazy. This look was just like those male courtesans in the orc brothel soliciting patrons. I immediately realized and picked up the medicinal ointment to sniff it carefully. A faint fragrance of bluebell herbs. This was specifically an aphrodisiac herb. I immediately helped Bastion up. Come on, I'm taking you to see a doctor right now. Bastion let out a growl. In an instant, Bastion had torn my coat to shreds. The moment reason shattered, he pounded his own head, using pain to stay alert. No, if this continues, Bastion will die. 7. That afternoon, Ezra appeared before me with Gu-han, both beaming with joy. Sis, Ryder said he likes me. You're not mad, are you? I skipped the blind date scheduled for this morning. Ezra went instead. I smiled faintly. How could I be upset? I've never even met Ryder. Ezra shot a meaningful glance at Bastion behind me. Congratulations, sister, on acquiring an orc husband. Xiaohu bot prevents document forgery. For bookfinding bots, choose Xiaohu, reliable heavy checkmark and scam-free. I was about to refuse, but Gu-han cut in first, saying, Ezra, I'm confident. We're going to win this. Seems Ezra's bold enough to act this brazenly in front of me only because she's certain about marrying into Ryder's family. She now thinks Ryder's family is the hottest catch, scrambling to wed into it. She'll soon learn the true meaning of misery. Gu-han didn't follow Ezra away. His bloodshot eyes glared at me with fury. Are you really with this werewolf? I sneered. Don't you know the potency of orchid bells? Orchid bells only grow in fox territory. Without Gu-han's involvement, how could Ezra possibly possess them? Gu-han turned deathly pale, staggering toward me. Bastion swiftly intervened, cutting us off from each other. I raised my eyes to meet Gu-han's gaze, my voice icy. If you've chosen Ezra, you'd better stay loyal. He stared blankly at me, completely dumbfounded. I've no patience left to waste words on this traitor. Bastion, let's go. Back in my courtyard, Bastion kept studying me with his eyes. Lifting my teacup, I said coolly, speak your mind. We clearly didn't. Why would you? The moment he spoke, the tips of his ears turned crimson. Who knew werewolves could get flustered too? Though Bastion was in dire straits last night, nothing happened between us. He slashed his thigh with the knife, The blood and pain brought him back to his senses, allowing him to hold on until I returned with the doctor. I studied him with a smile. Would you believe me if I said it was for my sister's sake? Bastian's eyes darkened. Clearly unconvinced by my words, I kept silent, and he didn't press further. Ryder's family is a mess, but if Azra's into it, let her dive in. 8. Father summoned us to the main hall for discussion. Azra and Guhan were present too. As I took my seat, Father said, "These orcs have been with you sisters for a while now. How's the teamwork coming along? Why not put it to the test today? How about a shop as a reward?" I couldn't help but frown. Bastian was a man of few words, and I wasn't much of a talker either. As he spoke, his gaze remained fixed intently on me. Azra frowned slightly, her tone carrying a hint of reprimand. "How many times must I say it? Call me master." Guhan froze momentarily, surprise flashing in his eyes before giving a slight nod. "Yes, don't be fooled by my stepsister's usual docile appearance, that acts only for our father and those she finds useful. Behind closed doors, she's a master tormentor. In my past life, she knew I had feelings for Guhan. She saw Guhan as a useful pawn, willing to transform into whatever version he desired. Now that Guhan is merely her beast man, there's no need to bother with flattery," I scoffed, lifting my gaze to meet Bastian's eyes. He'd been watching me all along. "Master, are you interested in acquiring that shop? That store's profits are impressive, a real cash cow. I must admit I'm tempted, but when it comes to testing our synergy, I don't have much confidence." Noticing my silence, Bastian remarked in a flat tone, "Then we'll win." 9. Guhan stared at Bastian's hands and scoffed. "You don't even know Xena doesn't eat oranges. How do you expect to win?" Bastian paused mid-peel and glanced down at me. The half-peeled orange he'd left earlier sat untouched on the plate. Seeing the gloom in his eyes, I suddenly grabbed the orange and stuffed it into my mouth. After chewing thoughtfully twice, I delivered my verdict. "Sweet. I don't eat it because I can't be bothered to peel it, but if you do it for me, I might give it a try." Bastian's eyes crinkled at the corners, his voice dripping with affection. "All right, I'll do it." A sharp crack echoed as Guhan crushed the teacup in his hand. He glared at me with gritted teeth, his face pale with rage. I paid him no further mind and took Bastian to learn about the trial's challenges. Father set us the Children's Gate Array Challenge. The team completing it fastest before an incense stick burns out wins. Though the Children's Gate Array only has 3 stages, its difficulty is no joke. Getting out within the time it takes an incense stick to burn is no easy feat. I told Bastian, "It's just one shop. Losing it won't be the end of the world." The family's financial strength is formidable, with at least 100 shops under the merchant house. My stepsister changed her outfit and walked toward me with a cold smirk. "Sister, do you really think Father was testing our coordination with the orcs? He was testing our capabilities, yours and mine. The winner gets the upper hand in inheriting Father's empire. I'm too lazy for power struggles. Growing up without financial worries probably explains why I've never been obsessed with wealth. Had Ezra just behaved properly, I'd have gladly split the family fortune with her. What a shame. She's just too greedy. Since I can't stand her, I won't give her a single penny." I smirked and said, "You'd better work harder then. After all, there's a world of difference between legitimate and illegitimate heirs, and you're not even the latter." She absolutely loathes when people mention her background. I used to tread carefully around that, but now, I won't hold back. "Cross me, and I'll end you." Azra's face darkened instantly, her eyes blazing with fury as she glared at me. "You'll pay for this." 10. Game on. Azra and Guhan make a perfect team. They were already cracking the second level while Bastian and I were still stuck on the first one. While I was still wobbling on that damn balance beam, Bastian abruptly extended his hand, his stern face softening with resolute determination in his eyes. "Master, trust me." After a brief hesitation, I placed my hand in his palm. The tension in Bastian's brow eased, his eyes now shimmering with newfound warmth. "Master, don't worry, victory will be ours." From that point onward, I focused entirely on Bastian. I followed his lead without question. We quickly caught up on the lagging progress. We stood before the final challenge alongside Azra. Crossing this sea of flames would mark the end of our trial. The fiery expanse was too vast for any individual to cross alone. Azra cast a pleading glance toward Guhan. After a moment's hesitation, Guhan threw himself into the sea of flames, using his own body as a bridge to help Azra cross. Azra shot me a challenging glance, her eyes brimming with triumph. Without hesitation, she then stepped on Guhan's body and leaped across the fiery abyss. The raging flames scorched Guhan's flesh. Though he clenched his teeth, agonized screams still escaped his lips. Ezra's face was alight with excitement, not even glancing back at Guhan after landing, leaving him to be scorched by the raging flames. Guhan stared at Ezra's retreating figure, his eyes wide with shock, panic setting in. Master, shall we begin too? Bastion's reminder snapped my attention back. Seeing him about to collapse, I yanked him upright. Bastion stared at me in confusion. I said, "You're my orc, not my stepping stone." Bastion's piercing gaze locked onto me, his thin lips parting slightly as if words kept catching in his throat. Clearing the challenge wouldn't have been difficult, but Ezra grew impatient. She chose to sacrifice Guhan outright rather than waste time. By the time Bastion and I completed the trial, Ezra was already standing beside father, smirking as she told me, "Sorry, sister, you lost." 11. I couldn't care less about Ezra's sarcastic remarks. Perhaps seeing I was ignoring her, Ezra turned to fawn over father instead. "Papa, I won. This shop belongs to me now, right?" Father chuckled. "Ezra, have you forgotten what we're testing this time?" Ezra's eyes darkened instantly. "Father, what do you mean by this?" The father replied, "This trial tests not just your speed, but your teamwork. Look at your orc, battered and bruised while you remain unscathed. Now observe your sister and her orc. She prides herself on being clever, yet understands nothing of my father." Under Ezra's resentful gaze, father handed me the deed to the shop. Today's trial concludes with Xena as the victor. The moment father left, Ezra unleashed her fury. She glared at me with pure hatred right before her eyes. I casually handed the shop's deed to Bastion. Enraged, Ezra swung her riding crop straight at Guhan. Worthless beast. Guhan's burns had already reached a critical state. With that single lash from Ezra, he collapsed to the ground, yet Ezra showed not an ounce of mercy, relentlessly whipping him to vent her fury. Guhan stared at me with red-rimmed eyes, desperately holding back tears. In our past life, he wore this same pitiful expression that made my heart ache for him. I sacrificed myself time and again to save him, trying this act again now. "You must think me a fool," I sneered coldly. "Little sister, foxes are seductive creatures. Had you not been bewitched by him, how could you have lost?" As the words landed, Guhan's eyes trembled as if struck by an earthquake. He stared at me in disbelief, clearly never expecting I'd not only refuse to help him, but actively sabotage him instead. My provocation only fueled Ezra's rage further. The lashes raining down on Guhan grew increasingly brutal. This is the karma he deserves. Didn't he claim he only felt alive when by Ezra's side? Then let him truly savor the joy of being alive. 12. Back in my courtyard, Bastion expertly poured the floral tea and served it to me. The moment I took the teacup, I noticed the burns on the back of his hand. His crimson skin was covered in blisters. I couldn't help but frown. "Why didn't you tell me you were hurt?" I summoned a maid to tend to his wounds. As the bandaging finished, I spoke coldly. "That shop alone could secure your future." Before I could finish, Bastion cut me off urgently. "Master, are you casting me away?" His eyes trembled slightly as he struggled to maintain composure. "I only bought Bastion initially to thwart Ezra's scheme. In the short time he's been with me, he's already gotten injured multiple times. Setting him free now is my way of making amends." I never expected him to react so strongly. "Don't you want to leave?" After a moment of silence, he finally exploded. "The contract is sealed. In life and death, I am yours. Are you abandoning me? Do you want me to die?" I was stunned. I never expected him to think that way. His bloodshot eyes, filled with a mix of resentment and fury, oddly piqued my interest. I leaned in, brushing my palm lightly across his face. "Don't want to leave, planning to be my orc forever." As my fingertip grazed Bastion's nose, his body shuddered violently, breath turning ragged and uneven. A crimson flush spread from his cheeks down to his neck, until his entire body turned scarlet. Having lived 2 lifetimes, I'm no blushing maiden. I take a rather detached view of matters between men and women. When Bastion was poisoned, I did consider helping him. He's the one who chose to restrain himself. Who knew this bloodthirsty werewolf could be so innocent beneath that cold exterior? The slightest tease sends him into disarray. His reactions delighted me, making it impossible to resist teasing him further. I leaned down and pressed my lips against his. Bastion froze, breathing rapidly, not daring to move. A hoarse voice laced with restraint murmured, Master, I stopped. Don't like it. Forget it then. I withdrew my hand and prepared to leave. Bastian suddenly grabbed my arm. I looked up at him, his flustered eyes brimming with longing. Please, show me mercy, Master. 13. Mischievous impulse took hold of me. I tilted his chin up with my forefinger. Tell me, how should I cherish you? He lowered his head slightly, his tongue grazing my fingertips. His gaze burned so intensely it was impossible to meet his eyes. I swallowed hard. Trying to look away, Bastian boldly closed the distance between us. With trembling care, he pressed his cold, thin lips against mine. Master, may I have you? My breath hitched, my heart's racing out of control. Who says foxes are charming? Werewolves clearly take the crown. My silent consent, it only emboldened Bastian further. He kept closing the distance until I was completely overwhelmed. Who would have thought the aloof werewolf hid such burning passion beneath the surface? After witnessing Bastian's true power, that's when I realized a foxkin's stamina is no match for a dominant werewolf. 14. I have no idea how long I'd been asleep. In my groggy state, my throat burned like fire. Bastian. Then I felt gentle hands lifting me up. Bastian fed me the warm tea, finally bringing me back to my senses. How long was I out? A full day and night. Bastian's cool eyes flickered with excitement. I couldn't help but frown. Help me up. I need to get out. The carriage rolled through bustling streets before halting at an inconspicuous fabric shop. I entered the shop and stopped before a woman. Are you Ori? Ori paused to size me up. Upon learning I was Xena, Ori smirked contemptuously. You've got the wrong person, miss. I don't call the shots in Ryder's family. If you want to marry Ryder, take it up with him or my father. I can't help you. Now leave. With those words, she turned to leave. As I stepped forward to stop her, a green-scaled beast man suddenly darted out from the side. Before I could react, Bastian moved faster. He lunged forward and forcefully shoved the serpentine beast man away. The emerald serpent orc counterattacked instantly. The two immediately grappled, with Bastian clearly dominating, exuding werewolf dominance from head to toe. He completely overpowered the serpent orc, yet the serpent orc moved with lightning speed, employing cunning tactics. He wasn't as strong as Bastian, no match for him in a fight. After faking out Bastian, it came straight at me. Bastian threw himself in front of me, taking the punch square on his back. When he landed, blood trickled from his lips, but his eyes scanned me with urgent concern. Master, are you hurt? I'm fine. As I finished speaking, Bastian helped me to the side. He immediately re-engaged in combat with the serpent beast man. Unlike his previous restraint, Bastian now struck with nothing but lethal moves. The green-scaled orc was forced into retreat under the relentless assault. As the orc collapsed, Bastian raised his fist, wolf claws glinting in the light. One more strike like this would surely finish the orc for good. At the critical moment, Ori leaped forward. Xena, spare him. Name your terms. I'll agree to anything. Bastian halted and glanced back at me. Seeing my nod, he yanked up the serpent beast man and hurled him vengefully against a nearby pillar. After completing everything, Bastian returned to my side. He maintained a step's distance, ready to protect me at any moment. 15. Ori led me to the backyard. The moment we sat down, she couldn't wait to speak. I agreed to your request, but let me be clear. I can't guarantee you'll marry Ryder. I chuckled. Who told you I came here to marry into the Ryder family? She eyed me suspiciously. Then what's your reason? I said. To help you, for mutual success. You've got real business talent, yet Ryder's family forces you to play second fiddle to your brothers just because you're a woman. How can you accept that? Ryder's family situation is quite different from the clan. Ori has 2 elder brothers, though Ryder is intelligent. He has no interest in business. The eldest brother is notoriously dissolute, spending his days in brothels and gambling dens. The family's current prestige is solely maintained by Ori's exceptional business acumen. Even so, Ori held no standing whatsoever in Ryder's family. Ryder's family drained her dry while behaving disgracefully, even scheming to marry Ori off for profit. In their past life, when the two families arranged a marriage, Ori had been forced to wed a fool to benefit Ryder's family. Later, Ryder's family business ran into trouble. Ryder's father forcibly summoned Ori back to help out. This left Ori, heavily pregnant, still hustling in the business world until she died from childbirth complications. Ori had helped me when I was down and out. In this second life, I have no interest in competing with my stepsister over some man. I just want to change my own destiny, if possible. I'd also like to alter Ori's tragic fate. 16. The prosperity of Ryder's family today is built on your tireless efforts, yet they still distrust you. Even forcing you into a political marriage with a fool. Are you truly content with this? When I mentioned the arranged marriage, the emerald serpent coiled around Ori's arm flared its eyes with fury. If not for yourself, at least think of him. He'd lay down his life for you. Can't you find the courage to stand up for him just once? Ori's head snapped up, staring at me in horrified disbelief. The light in her eyes flickered and faded in an instant. But they're my family, I couldn't help but scoff. It's not like I'm asking you to kill them. Financial independence is a woman's path to empowerment. Seeing her still wavering, I didn't press the matter. If you're content being controlled your whole life, consider me never here. As I rose to leave, Ori called out urgently, "What do you want?" I turned and sat down, ready to talk business. You've got the brains, I've got the money. Ori studied me carefully. But my second brother is engaged to your sister Ezra. If this alliance happens, do you really think you'll still have control over the family fortune? I said confidently. Ezra will never gain control of this family. Our family's foundation was built on my maternal grandfather's support all those years ago. In my past life, Ezra only got her hands on the family because I voluntarily stepped aside for Guhan. I sipped my tea quietly, giving Ori time to think. Though bound by family ties all his life, Ori maintained razor-sharp clarity in business matters. Within moments, he weighed the pros and cons before making a decisive call. All right, I'm in, I laughed. Pleasure doing business. Before heading out, Ori gave Bastion a thorough once-over. She suddenly chuckled. Your orc really cares about you. I froze for a second. Bastion did seem different from before, though he used to follow me everywhere. There was always this cold detachment about him, but today, his gaze never left me for a second. I forced an awkward smile, glancing at the green-scaled beastman beside Ori. Yours isn't half bad either. 17. After finalizing the partnership with Ori, beyond sending Bastion to deliver money to her regularly, I haven't taken any other action. On idle days, I'd simply brew tea and admire the flowers in my courtyard. Ezra, on the other hand, has been remarkably proactive lately. She tours the family's branch stores daily with Guhan, not just to win people over, but to make early preparations. I never expected Guhan would dare to seek me out. Ezra is about to get engaged to Ryder. With the backing of Ryder's family, she'll have a shot at controlling the clan even if your father objects. Doesn't that worry you? I looked at him with a cold smirk. And what about you? After all your efforts to finally form a contract with Ezra, you still don't qualify to stand by her side. Doesn't it hurt to watch her marry someone else? Guhan froze in place. Though I never left my quarters, I kept close tabs on Ezra and Guhan's movements. Ezra forced Guhan to employ Fox clan enchantments, weaving through Orcish circles to gather intelligence for her. The slightest mistake would earn him a lashing. Ezra knows best how to torment people in private. Instead of wasting time, you'd better contemplate your own fate. Once Ezra seizes power, Guhan becomes expendable. A worthless Guhan isn't even worth as much as a fox pelt. After a long silence, Guhan stepped closer to me. If I help you seize power, would you still honor our contract? As his words faded, an icy chill crept up behind me. It sent shivers down my spine. Guhan knelt down, his gaze devout as he gently licked my palm. He once said this was a beastkin's most loyal gesture to their mate. Xena, you promise to stay with me forever. Make a covenant with me. Let's never be apart. 18. The eerie crackling of bones behind me snapped me awake instantly. Fox spirits truly live up to their reputation as master seducers. Even with a second chance at life, I nearly fell for Guhan's deception again. Seeing my expression darken, Guhan shot Bastion a venomous glare. I kicked straight at his chest, sent Guhan flying with a single kick as he knelt before me. You worthless trash, still daring to beg for a contract with me. Guhan refused to give up. Xena, I know you're angry, just give me a chance, and I swear I won't let you down again. I reached out to tilt Guhan's chin, studying his face intently. Fox spirits seduce with beauty, and yours is indeed remarkable. But, before I could finish, he blurted out, "What?" But, I sneered, "This makes me sick. Bastion, break his damn legs and throw him out. Who the hell does he think he is? Should take a good look in the mirror. How dare this worn-out vixen try to seduce me?" Bastion had been waiting. The moment I finished speaking, He pounced without hesitation. He gave Gu-han no chance to resist. Striking immediately, Gu-han barely had time to scream before vanishing the next instant. Bastion swiftly dealt with Gu-han and returned to me. He knelt before me on one knee, gently wiping my palm over and over. Then he began tracing slow, deliberate circles on my palm with his tongue. Waves of tingling pleasure coursed through me, so possessive. After what felt like an eternity, he finally stopped and looked up at me. I raised an eyebrow and asked, "Happy now?" He slowly stood up, placing both hands firmly on my shoulders, pushed me down without hesitation. Cold eyes stared straight through me. I begged for my master's affection. 19. Tomorrow marks Ezra's wedding day. For this occasion, Father specially prepared a family feast, hoping we could all share a reunion dinner together. At the table, Ezra brought out a jar of wine and poured a cup for everyone. "Father, elder sister, this toast is from Ezra." Seeing my hesitation, Ezra cast a pleading glance at Father. "Father, I'm about to get married, yet elder sister won't even drink the wine I poured for her." Father gave me a stern look. "Xena, that's no way to speak. You two are sisters." I raised my cup and drained it in one gulp. As the wine cup touched the table, Ezra suddenly turned to her father and said, "Father, tomorrow I shall marry into the Ryder family. With their support, our house will surely prosper. Will you entrust our family's future to me?" I hadn't expected Ezra to reveal her ambitions so bluntly. I sat there without betraying any emotion. Father looked at Ezra with surprise in his eyes. "Ezra wants to take charge of the family. Very well. After your wedding, the southern business will be entrusted to Ezra." Ezra pressed further. "Just the southern operations." Father nodded. Ezra suddenly sneered with a vicious grin. "I knew it. Even if I married Ryder successfully, you'd never let me inherit the family. In your heart, I was never your daughter. The only heir you ever wanted was Xena. The appetite of man is never satisfied." The southern business was built from scratch by my father. Handing the southern business to Ezra meant giving away half the family fortune, and she still had the nerve to feel shortchanged by Father. I snapped, "Ezra, don't push your luck, push my luck." She smirked at me. "After today, the family will be mine. I can do whatever I please." Seeing the triumph in Ezra's eyes, I knew we were in trouble. "Father, let's go." Father tried to stand but collapsed back into his seat, his face deathly pale and his forehead drenched in cold sweat. Ezra laughed. "Sister, how do you like the taste of poisoned wine?" I'd always suspected Ezra would turn against me, but I never imagined she'd dare harm even Father. In my past life, Ezra never laid hands on Father. I raised my eyes to Gu-han and saw malice gleaming in his gaze. The realization struck me instantly. "This was your scheme, wasn't it?" Gu-han stared at me with icy eyes. "I gave you a choice. You refused it yourself. How utterly ridiculous." He reached out to touch my cheek. My face darkened as I snapped coldly, "Aren't you afraid Bastion will break every bone in your body?" He chuckled. "Haven't you noticed that pesky beast hasn't shown its face all day?" I stared at Gu-han in shock, my body trembling uncontrollably. "What the hell did you do to him?" Gu-han lowered his head and murmured, "I had Ezra mimic your voice to trick him into drinking orc-specific sedatives. By now, they've probably skinned you and hung your carcass in the butcher's market as dog meat." I snarled through gritted teeth, "You filthy animal." A triumphant grin spread across Gu-han's face. "This is your last chance. Marry me, and I'll guarantee your safety. Otherwise, neither you nor your father will walk out that door alive today." I stared coldly at him, not a trace of fear in my eyes. "Gu-han, after 2 lifetimes, you still don't understand me." 20. Gu-han stared at me in bewilderment, his eyes filled with shock. "What do you mean by this?" Ignoring him, I shouted toward the door, "Come out now." The serpent beast man then charged out with a squad of shadow guards. The tide turned in an instant. Ezra stared at me in disbelief. "How did you know?" Having lived 2 lifetimes, no one understands Ezra and Gu-han's ambitions better than I do. After repeated failures, how could they possibly just sit back and wait for death? Since Gu-han was reborn, he knew our father had always favored me. He understood perfectly. Even if Ezra married into Ryder's family, Father would never hand over the clan to Ezra without my consent to seize power. They would inevitably plot against me. Having lived 2 lives, I'd be a fool to fall for the same trick again. Seeing she was about to be taken away, Ezra finally panicked. She snapped angrily, "I'm the future daughter-in-law of Ryder's family, Ryder's wife. If you harm me, the Ryders will make you pay." She shot me a glare, Do you dare cross Ryder's family? Before I could speak, Ori's icy voice came from ahead. Second brother, since when did you become the decision-maker for Ryder's family? Ryder walked beside Ori, his demeanor less arrogant than before. In just a few months, Ori used my money to establish a new trading house outside. Meanwhile, following my advice, she seized control of Ryder family's lifeline. Now even if the Ryder clan looks down on her for being a woman, they have to live at her mercy. Ryder immediately changed his tune to pledge loyalty. This ungrateful wretch, devoid of loyalty and filial piety, isn't worthy to step through the doors of our Ryder family. Ezra was stunned, collapsing to the ground in shock. Coming to her senses, she lunged at me. Elder sister, we're family, you wouldn't really hurt me, would you? I know I was wrong. Can you please forgive me just this once? Ezra crossed every line when she even laid hands on her own father. She single-handedly destroyed her last lifeline. No one would plead for her anymore. Since she's so fond of poisoned wine, I'll send her off with a final cup at my command. Ori immediately had Ezra dragged away. She didn't want to stain my father's and my eyes with her presence. What about this one? How should we handle it? Ori pointed at Gu Han, who was pinned forcefully to the ground. Gu Han looked up at me, making one last desperate struggle. Xena, I regret it, but why didn't you choose me? I sneered. So you can carve out my heart again. Gu Han shook his head frantically. No, I would never. I cut him off before he could finish. Never. You poisoned me just because I rejected you. What wouldn't you be capable of? Gu Han stared at me blankly, murmuring in a daze, I'm sorry, crocodile tears. That bastard ruined 2 of my lives. Did he really think I'd let him off? Drag him to the slaughterhouse, skin him and sell the meat as dog food. 21. Thanks to the panacea that Ori spent a fortune to obtain, to prevent Ezra from poisoning my meals, we all took the universal antidote panacea in advance. I left the mess at the manor to Ori and headed for the slaughter market. Just as I was about to leave, Bastion appeared before me, covered in blood. His eyes seemed to see only me. Master, you're all right, aren't you? I'm fine. I steadied him with both hands and turned to ask Ori to fetch the best physician. Only then did Bastion realize the room was packed with people. His eyes instantly burned with anger when they met mine. I'm the only one kept in the dark, aren't I? 22. The courtyard held just Bastion and me now. His furious eyes held a trace of desolation. You never trusted me from the start, did you? You don't believe your beast man would stay loyal to you. I can't bring myself to lie anymore. Bastion was right. I never trusted orcs from the very beginning. Who said orcs remain loyal once bound by contract? Isn't Gu Han the perfect example? Having lived 2 lives, I won't make the same mistake twice. I always knew Ezra would come after me, and I saw right through Gu Han's treacherous ambitions. With Bastion guarding me like a shadow, they'd have to lure him away to make their move, to avoid raising suspicion. I kept all this from Bastion. I let Bastion walk into their trap, thinking it was just a diversion. I never expected Gu Han to be this ruthless, actually luring Bastion to the slaughterhouse to finish him off. No amount of explanation matters now. I brought this on myself by keeping Bastion in the dark from the start. His injuries are undeniably my fault. Watching blood drip steadily from his arm, my voice softened. You should see a doctor first. Bastion scoffed. Heh, do you even care about me? In your eyes, I'm just a pawn for you to use, as long as the mission succeeds. Do you even care if I live or die? I stared at Bastion, wanting to explain, but the words died in my throat. The fire in Bastion's angry eyes finally dimmed. He said, that promise to set me free, does it still stand? For some reason, my heart ached as if pierced by needles, yet in the end, I still nodded. I terminated the contract, setting Bastion free. He's gone. 23. After what happened to Ezra, father seemed to age 10 years overnight. He truly treated Ezra as his own flesh and blood. He handed over complete control of the family business to me, entrusting me with the entire household. In the blink of an eye, a whole year has passed. Ori now has complete control over Ryder's family, and the trading company we co-founded continues to expand. With these 2 advantages, managing the family has become increasingly effortless for me. Amidst the commotion, Ori spotted me and came running in her crimson wedding gown. Xena, you're here. Let me have someone show you to your seat. Today marks Ori and the little green snake's wedding day. In the Northern Territories, women may marry beast folk and host guests during their nuptials. Surrounded by guests, I found myself a quiet seat and gestured for her not to mind me. The table guests were engaged in casual conversation. Have you heard about the Wolf King of the Eastern Sea? They say the Wolf King suddenly returned a year ago and conquered the entire werewolf race in no time. His methods. There's not another beast man in this generation who could match him. Word is the Wolf King recently came to the Northern Territories, perhaps because I heard them mention the black-furred werewolf. I pricked up my ears for a moment before getting up to leave. I don't care for overly noisy gatherings. The congratulatory gift has been delivered. I should head back to rest. Just arrived at the mansion's entrance. There stood a tall, slender figure by the doorway. Year apart, he's grown much more muscular. Just as I was about to circle to the back door, he suddenly turned around. Our eyes met, and I instinctively looked away. The Wolf King of the East Sea. Over the years in the business world, I've heard bits and pieces about the Wolf King. The expensive clothes he wore told me all I needed to know. Bastian didn't respond, slowly closing the distance between us. He stopped just an arm's length away. His gaze locked onto me. His burning gaze made me so uncomfortable I instinctively wanted to flee. Master, don't you want to see me? The icy tone in his voice made me freeze in my tracks. I turned back to face him. Our contract is void. You needn't call me master anymore. After a long hesitation, he suddenly knelt before me on one knee. His tongue gently traced circles across my palm. His gaze burned with fervent devotion. Master, please show me mercy. I sneered. Aren't you afraid I'll distrust you again, use you as a pawn, and send you to your death? Bastian stared at me, his eyes filled with solemn determination. Master, I am now the Wolf King of the Eastern Sea. As the orc who rules the entire Eastern Sea, you'll achieve twice the results with half the effort by utilizing my current power. I curse my own weakness for putting you in danger. Never again. My heart quivered. My mind was flooded with rumors from merchants of all stripes. My contracted orc bared his fox-like claws with a vicious grin, driving them into my heart. A sharp pain shot through my chest. Her fingers unconsciously brushed across his forehead. Do you truly wish to form a contract with me? Bastian's eyes lit up, a rare smile gracing his coldly handsome features. I begged for my master's affection. I lifted his chin with my fingers, a playful smirk dancing on my lips as my eyes sparkled with amusement. Perfect. I take your hand in mine, pledging my eternal devotion, till silver threads among the gold, the end. Story 2. During the spring festival, an extreme cold snap suddenly hit. I spent all my resources and efforts to secure spots in the government's underground shelter. For the whole family, however, my husband Cyrus snatched away the spots meant for me and our daughter and gave them to his first love. Cyrus, I worked so hard to get these shelter spots. Why should they go to Elise? There was a long line outside the shelter, and the weather was incredibly cold. The warm southern coast plummeted to -25 degrees Celsius overnight. Cyrus blocked the entrance of the shelter, and we were at a standstill. His attitude was extremely firm. Freya, Elise is now a single mother with a child. How could I have the heart to leave her in such cold? I looked at my daughter in my arms. Fiona was blinking her big, innocent eyes at me. So, you have the heart to leave us, mother and daughter, outside? I can endure it, but Fiona is only 4 years old. Aren't you afraid your daughter won't make it through this winter? A hint of hesitation flashed across Cyrus's face. Just then, Elise started crying. Brother Cyrus, I think I should leave. Maybe we're just not meant to be. This is the last time we'll see each other. Looking at Elisa's tearful face, the boy beside her also started crying loudly. Cyrus's last bit of guilt towards Fiona vanished without a trace. He pushed me away. Anyway, I have the tickets now. I want Elise and her son to enter the shelter. Freya, you're on your own. I've always been a strong-willed person. Even when I was given away by my biological parents at 3 months old, even when my adoptive parents were gambling addicts who ignored me completely, I still managed to get into university through my own perseverance and earned enough money for tuition and living expenses. The hardships I faced growing up never made me shed a single tear, but today, my eyes felt a bit sour. Cyrus was the man I loved. In the 4 years of our marriage, to avoid putting pressure on him, I never asked for a single cent for living expenses. When I was pregnant, I was still running after clients under the scorching sun. Before I even finished my postpartum recovery, I went back to work with the baby on my back. Over the years, with my hard, working spirit, I managed to buy a house through my own efforts. As for Cyrus, The only thing I ever asked of him was to stay by me and our child, but now it seems that everything I've done was a waste. I sniffed and made one last attempt. I can stay out, but let Fiona go in. She's your own daughter. Before Cyrus could respond, Elise started acting up again. There are limited spots. If she goes in, then my Calvin can't. Right, then I won't go either. I'd rather die with my son, too. Cyrus hurriedly went to comfort Elise, then he squatted down and pretended to be guilty in front of Fiona. Fiona, Daddy knows you're the kindest. Your little brother is too young to endure the cold. Looking at Fiona's bewildered expression, my heart ached deeply. Elisa's child can't endure the cold, but mine can. The love I had for Cyrus for 10 years disappeared in an instant. The crowd behind us started to get restless. Are you going in or not? If not, get out of the way. Cyrus picked up Elisa's son, avoided looking at me, and walked towards the shelter. My mother-in-law and father-in-law, who had been silent, also spoke up. Freya, we've always known you're a capable daughter-in-law. We believe you can take good care of Fiona. Then they followed Cyrus without looking back, and Elise, when Cyrus wasn't looking, gave me a provocative glance and joined the line. Giant snowflakes started to fall from the sky, and the line to enter the shelter began to move quickly. Holding Fiona, I watched them until they were out of sight. Fine, just great. Fiona hugged my neck and said in a childish voice, Mom, don't Daddy, Grandpa, and Grandma want us anymore? Do they like that aunt and the little brother now? I hid the coldness in my eyes. No, we don't want them anymore. Then, a mother and daughter who were going against the crowd appeared. I held Fiona and drove towards the villa in the mountains. There was a warm fireplace and countless supplies there, enough for us to survive this natural disaster. 3. The villa in the mountains was bought secretly by me. Due to my childhood experiences, I always like to have a backup plan. My biological parents gave birth to me when they were underage and couldn't afford to raise me. They sent me to the countryside when I was 3 months old. I was adopted by a couple who had been married for 10 years without children, but instead of giving me a new lease on life, they spent all their time gambling and drinking, losing all their family property. When they lost money, they took their anger out on me. When they were drunk, they also beat me. I grew up relying on the kindness of neighbors, getting a meal here and there, and endured countless sneers, but fortunately, I was blessed by fate. I was in good health, full of energy, and extremely strong. I only needed to sleep 3 hours a day to be full of vitality. With this gift, I did well in both my studies and career. Before the natural disaster, I had become the general manager of a listed company, earning $1,000,000 a year. So, to ensure that my family could survive this natural disaster that I had long anticipated, I spent half a year preparing 2 plans. That's just how I do things. 3 months ago, the weather was extremely hot. As the spring festival approached, the temperature remained above 25 degrees Celsius. I learned some divination skills from a blind old man in the village when I was a child. After calculating with my life chart, I predicted a great disaster. Coincidentally, I learned from inside sources that the country was building underground shelters. When things are abnormal, there's usually something wrong. I pulled every string I could and spent a fortune. Finally, I managed to get 5 tickets to the shelter. There were exactly 5 of us: Cyrus, our daughter, my in-laws, and me. The whole Cyrus family knew about the government shelter tickets, but I was the only one who knew about the villa on the mountaintop. I looked at the thermometer, and the temperature kept dropping. It had already fallen below -40 degrees Celsius. It seemed that my childhood habit had saved my life at a critical moment. Otherwise, Fiona and I would have become wandering spirits frozen to death in City Z. Driving the Land Rover at full speed, I finally reached the villa. The villa, thanks to my special modifications, had excellent insulation. The solar generator was on standby 24 hours a day. In the garage, there was enough firewood to last half a year for the fireplace. The basement, which was over 100 square meters, was filled with rice, flour, cooking oil, instant food, and snacks. Even in the car, Fiona's face was red from the cold. I quickly turned on the underfloor heating and lit the fire. The whole house became warm in an instant. Fiona was still a child. When she saw the beautiful house, she quickly forgot her sadness. She took off her shoes and happily played in the warm living room. I went to the kitchen to prepare dinner. I took out frozen beef, vegetables, and hot pot balls from the basement. We were going to have hot pot to celebrate the new year, for the chicken soup base for the hot pot started boiling, and I put in all the balls and vegetables that Fiona liked. The clock in the house struck 12, the new year had arrived. I used to be afraid of being alone because I lacked love, but now, it didn't seem so bad. Besides, I had Fiona with me. That jerk could go to hell, watching the snow outside and enjoying the hot pot. Fiona and I were extremely cozy. Seeing Fiona's satisfied face, all my pent-up feelings faded away. Just as we were enjoying our meal, the honking of a car came from outside the villa. I told Fiona not to run around, picked up a baseball bat, and went outside. A luxury car was parked at the door. I took a closer look. Wasn't this the car of Bryce, the richest man in City Z? The car door opened, and Bryce, wrapped in a thick black down jacket, walked up to me. "We mean no harm, the snow has blocked the mountain, and we have nowhere else to go. Can we stay here for a while?" I peeked inside the car and saw a middle-aged couple. They must be Bryce's parents. Without thinking, I nodded in agreement. Bryce looked surprised. "Novels about the apocalypse say that human nature is the most complicated. Aren't you afraid we'll take over?" I rolled my eyes. "Who said this is the apocalypse? The extreme cold will last at most 2 months. Besides, I'm not letting you stay for free. After the extreme cold ends, you must give me the real estate project of your company." Bryce looked at me like I was crazy. "I admit that I sometimes do whatever it takes to make money, but I have no choice. I've never had any support from my family. If I fall, no one will help me up, so I'll seize every opportunity to make money to ensure a worry-free future for my child and me." After letting Bryce and his family in, I couldn't wait to take out the contract and ask him to sign it. Holding the contract, I laughed triumphantly. "Once this project is done, I'll make a fortune and can retire 10 years early." Bryce still looked at me like I was a fool. However, Bryce's father looked at me with approval and mumbled, "She has the same spirit as I did back then." Bryce's mother took an immediate liking to Fiona and accompanied her to eat the hot pot. Fiona was sweet-mouthed and kept calling her Grandma, which made Bryce's mother very happy. She immediately took off a thick gold bracelet from her wrist and wanted to give it to Fiona. I accepted it on Fiona's behalf and gave Bryce's mother an obsequious smile. Then I took out the best ingredients from the basement for Bryce and his family to enjoy. Since I got the benefits, I'll take good care of them. After all, my future prosperity depends on them. 5. The extreme cold continued, and the temperature dropped below -50 degrees Celsius. Thankfully, I had purchased a solar generator in advance. Even so, the underfloor heating and air conditioning in the villa were struggling, and the fire in the fireplace couldn't be stopped. It was too cold in the rooms, so the 5 of us simply made beds on the floor by the fireplace. The TV in the living room was broadcasting the news in real time. The underground shelter in City Z had stopped operating due to the extreme weather, and there was a severe food shortage. Refugees were fighting over food, and violence broke out. An avalanche had also paralyzed the heating system. Half of the people in the shelter were either dead or injured. A large number of refugees were moving eastward in search of a new place to stay. I frowned. East? Wasn't that where I was? Bryce also looked worried. "If a large number of refugees come, our small villa might not be safe. You know, in the apocalypse, the scariest thing is human nature." I stuffed a big steamed bun into Bryce's mouth. "Shut up. You've read too many novels. Don't stop me from making money." So, when the refugees reached the foot of the mountain where the villa was located, despite the Jiang family's dissuasion, I entrusted Fiona to Bryce's mother and quickly loaded a car with supplies and drove towards the refugee area. The car was loaded with all kinds of self-heating food. In the extreme cold, a bowl of hot soup might help people survive a few more days. The supplies were free, of course. When giving out the supplies, I would also judge the identities of the refugees with my sharp eyes. If someone could be helpful for my company's projects, I wouldn't hesitate to use the supplies as a bargaining chip. At this time, whether they were rich or poor, everyone was shivering from the cold and would agree to almost anything I said. I'm no saint. I calculated that the extreme cold wouldn't last long. Once it was over and life returned to normal, I'd have to start working hard to make money again. Why not lay the groundwork now? 6. While I was busy developing future clients, a group of 5 people appeared in the crowd. Cyrus was holding Elisa's child, and my in-laws were standing on either side like bodyguards. At first glance, they looked like a family. In the past, when we went out as a family, I was always the one holding Fiona. Cyrus would act like a do-nothing, just strolling around with my in-laws. Even when my arms were so tired they were shaking, he would pretend not to see. But now, he was holding someone else's son affectionately. When Cyrus saw me, he ran over like I was his last hope. Freya, it's really you, give me all the supplies. Elisa's child is dying. I looked at the boy in Cyrus's arms. Clearly, the boy was severely frozen. There was frost on his eyelashes, and his face was turning blue-purple. Before I could say anything, Cyrus reached into the supply box in the car. I pulled out a kitchen knife from my waist and chopped at his hand without hesitation. Who gave you permission to take my things? Cyrus quickly pulled his hand back. The knife grazed his hand, and the blood that oozed out immediately froze. What do you mean? Are you going to let him die? I sneered. It's better for me to let him die than for some people to give away their own daughter's chance to live. Besides, even if I were to help everyone today, you, Cyrus, would be the last on my list. Cyrus was shocked, looking at me as if I were a stranger. Yes, I had never treated him like this before. Cyrus and I were college classmates. He was very handsome, the campus heartthrob. I fell for him when I was working part-time in the campus cafeteria. He was wearing a white shirt then, and the sunlight shone on his face, making him look young and beautiful. I pursued him persistently, using the money I earned from my tiring part-time jobs to buy him birthday gifts. One autumn afternoon, he agreed to be with me. Even the cold wind that year tasted sweet. From then on, I worked even harder at my studies and work. From getting married to having a child, I took care of everything at home. I never knew how to say no to Cyrus. In the workplace, I was tough and decisive, but I was always extremely gentle with him. I guess he had gotten used to me obeying him, but from the moment he decided to abandon Fiona and me, he was dead to me. I wanted him to know that when I held you, you were a glass cup, but when I let go, you became shards of glass. Elise came forward, crying, and knelt down in front of me. Sister Freya, it's all my fault, but I'm begging you, give my child a bowl of hot soup to save him. Here we go again. She used to do this in school. And now, even as a mother, she's still at it. Back then, Elise used her manipulative ways to break up with Cyrus and latch onto a rich second generation, but things didn't go as she hoped. The rich second generation's family went bankrupt, and Elisa's husband died from excessive alcohol consumption. So, Elise turned back to Cyrus, who had always pined for her, and shed tears in his arms, and just like that, she won his heart again. Now, she's trying to use the same tricks to gain the sympathy of those around her. It's ridiculous. In the middle of an apocalypse, who cares? The weather got even colder. Even wearing top of the line cold resistant clothing, I could barely stand the chill, let alone the people waiting in line. I pointed the kitchen knife at her. I was able to stockpile these supplies because of my foresight and strength. I decide who gets them, and it's none of your business to tell me what to do. I glanced at the increasingly agitated crowd behind them. Besides, what do you mean, give it all to you? If I give everything to you, are the others supposed to starve and freeze to death? Elise, are you addicted to stealing from others? I pushed Elise to the ground. Get out of the way and don't stop me from distributing the supplies. As soon as I finished speaking, a burly man in line picked Elise up as easily as lifting a chicken. Stop crying and whining here. It's getting on my nerves. If you cause an avalanche, we're all done for. Elise didn't get the supplies and broke down, crying loudly, my child, please save my child. Cyrus rescued Elise from the burly man and looked at me fiercely. I never thought you could be such a heartless woman. I regret marrying you. He seemed to want to see remorse in my eyes, but I just looked indifferent. That's right, I was faking being nice to you before. Now I'm done pretending, and I'm looking for a chance to get back at you. My father-in-law frowned at me angrily. Freya, we were married. Isn't it too much to not even give us a bowl of instant noodles? I sneered. Sure, I can give you one. It's 100,000 yuan per bowl. My mother-in-law shrieked. Are you crazy? 100,000 yuan for a bowl of instant noodles? Are you profiteering during a national disaster? I feigned shock. I wouldn't dare to call it profiteering during a national disaster. I'm just making money from your Cyrus's family. Then, I took out a bowl of instant noodles and handed it to the burly man behind. Here you go. "Sir, it's free." The burly man took the instant noodles, and a smile spread across his fierce face. "You're really kind, miss." The Cyrus family looked furious, their faces turning red and then white, but they didn't dare to try and grab the supplies because they knew I wasn't someone to be messed with. Cyrus was as weak as a scholar, and the rest of the Cyrus family were either old, weak, sick, or disabled. I could take on 5 of them with one hand. Finally, Cyrus threatened. "Freya, you'll pay for this. If anything happens to Elisa's child, I won't let you off." "Humph, who does he think he is?" But I'd think twice before hitting him. I don't want to dirty my hands. I immediately took out 2 boxes of self-heating rice. Whoever slaps him a few times can have these. With supplies in short supply, no one could resist the temptation of 2 boxes of self-heating rice. Where there's a big reward, there are brave takers. A tough couple immediately stepped forward from the crowd. The man pinned Cyrus down, and the woman slapped Cyrus's fair face left and right with her large hands. Cyrus couldn't resist, and his face swelled up badly. My father-in-law was so angry that his face turned red, and he fainted, clutching his chest. My mother-in-law shrieked and tried to pull the tough woman's hair, but she was no match. Instead, she was slapped to the ground. She sat on the ground, covering her face and crying loudly. "This is outrageous, a daughter-in-law hiring people to beat her husband and mother-in-law." I sneered inwardly. When they abandoned Fiona and me, did they ever think about being my husband and mother-in-law? The tough woman seemed to figure out the relationship between me and Cyrus. She also dragged Elise, who was hiding in the crowd, out and slapped her twice. Now, there were 2 women on the ground, crying while covering their faces. Before leaving, the tough woman said to me, "Sister, consider it a buy one, get one free deal, just a little something to help you get back at them." 7. After a long day, I returned to the villa happily, holding a stack of business contracts. This trip was very rewarding. Not only did I secure future partnerships, but I also built up a lot of connections. Inside the villa, Bryce's parents were playing with Fiona. Bryce, wearing my flowery apron, looked annoyed as he cooked in the kitchen. Without a nanny, the young master had to learn how to cook. Fiona got along very well with Bryce's mother. She even pestered her to tell stories at night. Bryce's mother was happy to do so and carried Fiona into the room, not forgetting to tease Bryce. "You're not getting any younger. Why haven't you given me a grandchild? Let me enjoy holding Fiona for now." Bryce had a rough day. Not only did he have to cook, but he also got teased. After dinner, I volunteered to do the dishes, leaning against the kitchen counter. Bryce became interested in the stack of business contracts. "Freya, aren't you working too hard?" I washed the dishes without looking up. "What else can I do? Will you support me?" After a moment, a soft voice came from behind me. "Sure." Suddenly, there was a loud crash of breaking glass. Cold air mixed with snowflakes rushed into the living room. The warm fireplace went out immediately. A dozen people burst in through the broken window. "Watch out." Bryce quickly stepped in front of me to protect me. A baseball bat swung down just beside me. I could see that they were trying to kill me. I pushed Bryce away and grabbed a kitchen knife from the counter. I slashed at the attacker, caught off guard by my ferocity. The attacker hesitated for a moment but then continued to fight me with the baseball bat. The others split up and rushed towards the basement and upstairs. "Bryce, Fiona is upstairs." Honestly, I wasn't afraid of a few more attackers, but my daughter was my weak spot. I wouldn't allow her to be harmed. Bryce understood immediately and rushed upstairs to fight the attackers. I also faced the man with the baseball bat, and with a swing of the knife, I broke the bat in 2. The man took a few steps back, probably shocked by how strong I was for a woman, but he had no choice but to keep attacking. He swung his fists at me. How dare he? After the extreme cold ended, the country would quickly restore social order, so I didn't want to kill anyone. I kicked him hard in the stomach, and he flew 3 meters away, fainted, his eyes rolling back. Bryce was outnumbered by 5 or 6 attackers and was stuck at the staircase. Several people had already gone upstairs. I was anxious. I slapped the people blocking the staircase, stunning them, and then rushed upstairs. Bryce's mother's door had been kicked open. "Oh no, Fiona!" I dashed into the room. Bryce's father was on the ground, still desperately holding onto a young man's leg. Bryce's mother looked terrified but still held Fiona tightly in her arms. I grabbed the young man by the hair and pushed his face into the ground. He begged for mercy. Sister, let me go, I was wrong, please. I pressed the tip of my shoe against his mouth. Tell me, who sent you? Many refugees knew I had a villa in the mountains, but since it wasn't a desperate situation yet, and I had the courage to distribute supplies alone, smart people knew I wasn't someone to mess with. No one would take the risk of stealing supplies unless speak up, otherwise I'll stomp your teeth into pieces. The young man trembled. Okay, I'll tell you. It was a pretty boy. He had a crying woman with him. They said her son had frozen to death. The pretty boy was really angry. He said you were selfish, hoarding supplies and refusing to share. He said you had no morals and had lost your humanity. I understood. Cyrus used to be in the debate club and was very persuasive. He definitely had the ability to incite people. He had also threatened to get even with me if anything happened to Elisa's child. Since he couldn't beat me himself, he was using others to do his dirty work, but he never thought that his actions would also put Fiona in danger. Or maybe he just didn't love me, so he didn't love our child either. Even though I had let go of my feelings for Cyrus, I still felt bitter. Over the past few years, I had given so much to the Cyrus family. I didn't owe anyone anything, but I felt like I had let down Fiona. I couldn't give her a father who loved her. I resolutely raised my foot and stomped on the young man's teeth. He spat out a large mouthful of blood, staining the floor. He howled and looked at me. What are you looking at? I'm teaching you a lesson. Before you get influenced by others, think about your own strength. You're welcome. Then, I grabbed his hair and threw him down the stairs like trash. Soon, a few more people rushed into the villa. I thought, oh no, no matter how strong I am, I can't fight off so many people. If it came to the worst, I'd have to use my most powerful moves. Cyrus really played a dirty trick. If I lost, he would avenge Elise and himself and also get a lot of supplies from the villa. If I won, I'd probably hurt someone, and I'd face legal consequences after the apocalypse ended. Either way, he had nothing to lose. After 5 or 6 years of living together, I gave him a life of comfort, and this is how he repaid me. By plotting against me. Surprisingly, the new group of people didn't come for me. Instead, they attacked the previous group. I saw the tough couple and the burly man who had praised me. This young lady is so kind. She distributed supplies to us for free. How dare you try to bully her? People like you ruin society. Even in an apocalypse, we should have morals. So, the troublemakers were thoroughly defeated. The leader of the group nodded at me generously. Sister, consider this repayment for the supplies you gave us. Until we meet again. Before I could stop them, they dragged the defeated troublemakers out of the villa. The crisis was over, but I was filled with anger. Cyrus, how should I deal with you? Just as I was thinking of 100 ways to make Cyrus suffer, a pair of slender hands with well-defined knuckles grabbed the hem of my pants. Hey, Freya, can you give me a hand? Oh right, I almost forgot Bryce was still on the ground. I grabbed the back of Bryce's neck and pulled him up. I glanced at him disdainfully. You're such a useless man, Bryce protested from behind me. Hey, I was fighting 5 or 6 people by myself just now. 10, the refugees at the foot of the mountain lived in caves, each covered with thick windproof materials, but many still froze to death. Their bodies were lined up in the distance. In the extreme cold, the bodies didn't decay. Late at night, I quietly entered the cave where Cyrus and his family were staying. Cyrus was holding Elise tightly as they slept. Elise was still sobbing in her sleep, and Cyrus patted her back with his eyes closed. What a loving couple. Such a beautiful scene should be destroyed by me. I raised the hammer in my hand and aimed at Cyrus's groin. Since you're not a good father, you won't be able to be one ever again. Ah! A shrill scream pierced the night. Cyrus writhed on the ground, clutching his groin in pain. Elise cried, not knowing what to do. Brother Cyrus, what's wrong? Who did this? With limited medical conditions in the apocalypse, Cyrus couldn't get proper treatment. His lower body was probably ruined. It was too dark in the cave, and no one saw that I was the one who did it. I slipped out of the cave, leaving without a trace. I was right. The extreme cold didn't last long. Just as the refugees at the foot of the mountain ran out of supplies, the temperature started to rise. The relevant authorities quickly took action to carry out rescue and relief work. When the ice and snow melted, the refugees started to head down the mountain and return home. But some people might find themselves homeless. I drove my Land Rover and rushed to the residential area in the city center. When I opened the door, a huge wedding photo was still hanging in the middle of the living room. In the photo, I was holding Cyrus's arm, smiling happily, while Cyrus looked miserable. How ironic, he didn't love me, yet I kept lying to myself. I tore down the photo, threw it on the ground, and stomped on it until it was in pieces. Then, I packed up Cyrus's and my in-laws' clothes and belongings and threw them into the trash downstairs. Cyrus came from a poor family in the mountains. When he went to college, his family couldn't even afford the travel expenses. The whole village had to pool their money to send him to school and cover his living expenses. In school, I admired Cyrus. He had a unique and proud air about him. He could eat steamed buns and pickles in the cafeteria without caring what others thought. In my eyes, he looked as elegant eating steamed buns as if he were having steak. Worried that he might go hungry, I would secretly pack a meat dish for him, even when his roommates teased him. He calmly accepted it and said, "Thank you." Maybe Elise choosing a rich second generation hurt his pride. That's why he finally agreed to my pursuit and stopped rejecting my gifts. Even after we got married, he comfortably played the role of a pampered young master at home and never contributed to the family. It turned out that being with me was just his way of giving up on life. 11. The house was bought before our marriage. Fortunately, I wasn't completely blinded by love. I had done a property notarization before the wedding. I sold the house as quickly as possible. Right after the apocalypse, many buildings were damaged. Many wealthy people were willing to pay high prices for intact houses for living or working. Looking at the 3 million yuan I got from the sale, I happily thought about which house to buy after the reconstruction. Then, I threw myself back into work. I still had to make sure those big bosses honored the business contracts we signed. The country's reconstruction was incredibly fast. In just 3 months, it was almost back to how it was before the apocalypse, and my career advancement was just as astonishing. With those contracts and the connections I made during the apocalypse, achieving my goals was a breeze. Just as my career was in full swing, the phone rang, and the caller ID showed it was Cyrus on the other end of the line. Cyrus had completely lost his former grace and was furiously raging. "Freya, what the hell are you doing? Who gave you the right to sell our marital home? With what you've done, where am I supposed to live with my parents? They're not in good health. You killed Elisa's child, and now you want to kill my parents too, don't you?" I replied, "The house is mine, and it's my right to decide what to do with it. If you have nowhere to live, you can go back to that small mountain village." Cyrus was silent for a while. "Are you really going to be so heartless?" I rubbed my temples, reflecting on how I could have fallen for such a person in the first place. "Cyrus, all these days, have you ever thought about Fiona?" There was still silence on the other end. "Elisa's child died because she wasn't capable of protecting her own child. You can blame anyone or anything, but it's not my fault. But have you ever thought about what would have happened to Fiona today if I was like Elise, just crying and whining? You didn't love me, and you could have refused me in the first place, but you calmly accepted my kindness. Cyrus, how can you be so despicable?" Cyrus seemed to sniffle. "Freya, I'll send the divorce agreement to your place. I hope we never see each other again." After saying that, I hung up the phone. 12. One winter afternoon, I was leisurely drinking coffee in my office. After half a year of hard work, the amount in my bank card had increased sharply, and it was enough for me and Fiona to live on for the rest of our lives. Although I was only 30 years old, I wanted to retire. I wasn't naturally a workaholic. It was just that the insecurity I had since childhood made me have a special obsession with money. Now that I had the money, it was time for me to enjoy the life that I had never experienced in the past 30 years. Just as I was imagining where to take Fiona on a trip, the door of the office was pushed open violently. My secretary, with a red face, was at a loss. "Boss, I looked at the group of people from the Cyrus family. Cyrus was walking behind his parents with his head lowered. I waved my hand, signaling the secretary to step back. My mother-in-law still played her shrewish role. She rushed over and pointed at my nose. "Freya, you must return the house to us, and you have no right to take the custody of Fiona either." I smiled. You've always disliked Fiona just because she's a girl. During the apocalypse, I didn't see you protecting Fiona. Now you have the nerve to fight for custody. I looked at Cyrus. What's wrong? Can the golden phoenix that flew out of the mountain no longer have a son? Cyrus lowered his head even more, and the shame on his face was hard to hide. My mother-in-law was still arrogant. Fiona is of the Cyrus family's blood, so naturally, we should raise her. Besides, you have to pay 20,000 yuan in child support every month. It's true that a person without shame is invincible. My father-in-law rolled up his sleeves. If you don't agree, don't blame me, your father-in-law, for using the family rules. I laughed even louder, just like a small temple with strong evil winds. A poor family has more rules than the imperial palace. When I was with Cyrus, my in-laws had a lot of demands. They either made me stand in line in the early morning or asked me to serve tea and water. After a tiring day, I still had to pour foot-washing water for them. They called it a traditional virtue. If I hadn't liked Cyrus so much, I would never have tolerated it for so long. Seeing me smiling without saying a word, my mother-in-law thought I was afraid of them. She said proudly, "You were abandoned by your biological parents when you were a child, and your adoptive parents were gambling addicts. You were unwanted since you were a child, and now you have a child with you. I advise you to remarry Cyrus as soon as possible. Otherwise, do you want to be a woman that no one wants for the rest of your life? Cyrus is the only college student in the mountain village. It's your fortune to serve us. You were born with a lonely fate, and being with us can bring good luck to your next life." With every word my mother-in-law said, my face grew colder. Indeed, every word she said hit my sore spots. I tightened my grip on the coffee cup, thinking about at what angle I should smash it to make the person feel more pain. 13, Mom, the sweet and innocent voice finally made me suppress the urge to smash someone. Bryce's mother walked into the office with a kind face, holding Fiona in her arms. Behind her were Bryce's father and Bryce, carrying big and small bags. When my mother-in-law saw Fiona, a smile like a chrysanthemum bloomed on her face. "Oh, my little baby, where have you been? Grandma missed you so much." As she spoke, she reached out to take Fiona from Bryce's mother. Unexpectedly, Fiona hugged Bryce's mother's neck even tighter. "I don't like this grandma. She pinches my face and scolds me for being a money loser. I like this grandma. She's nice to me." My mother-in-law's face immediately turned dark. "You ungrateful girl, what are you saying?" Bryce's mother immediately covered Fiona's ears. Bryce's father coughed seriously. "We know that Freya has no parents, so we're here today to propose marriage to Freya directly. If there's nothing else, irrelevant people can leave. Propose marriage, propose marriage." Cyrus and my mother-in-law exclaimed simultaneously. Cyrus looked at Bryce in surprise, and my mother-in-law shouted that it was impossible. "She's a 30-year-old woman who's been married before and has a child. She's the one my son used to be with. How could anyone propose marriage to her?" Bryce immediately stood in front of my mother-in-law, shielding me behind him. "You old hag, who gave you the right to talk about my fiancé like that? Freya has a strong character and is beautiful. Now she's worth millions. Cyrus, I have to say, it was your fortune to marry her, but this fortune will soon be mine." Cyrus stared straight at Bryce, his gaze seemingly trying to pass through Bryce and reach me. My mother-in-law looked incredulous. She threw herself at my son, and you still want her?" Bryce's mother handed Fiona to Bryce's father. She angrily rolled up the gold and silver bracelets on her hands. "I haven't fought for a long time. I have to teach you a lesson today, old hag. You don't cherish such a good daughter-in-law and granddaughter, and you even dare to call Fiona a money loser. I'll beat you to death." 14. I stopped Bryce's mother. "Forget it, Auntie, beating them will dirty your hands." Then, I turned to face Cyrus. "If you leave now, I'll still think you have some backbone. Don't make me look down on you." Cyrus looked at me, then at Fiona. Fiona turned her head away and didn't look at him. I clearly felt a great sense of unwillingness welling up on his face, but he still pulled his parents and walked towards the door. My mother-in-law shouted before leaving, "Don't pull me. I want my house and my money. You're so useless. I worked so hard to send you to college." 15. After the Cyrus family left, Bryce's mother and Bryce's father made an excuse and took Fiona to the amusement park. Bryce stood behind me, in the reflection of the glass. His hand lifted and then dropped. I couldn't help laughing, turned around, and hugged him outside the French windows. Colorful fireworks burst into the sky. It was going to be the spring festival again. Bryce, I love money more than anything. Aren't you afraid of me? Bryce immediately hugged me back. Freya, in the days to come. You just need to be happy. I smiled slightly, and a feeling of happiness welled up in my heart. Many friends advised me that since I had just experienced a failed marriage, I should be cautious about getting into another relationship. Actually, I'm not afraid because if Bryce changes his heart, I have enough ability and courage to leave unexpectedly. Bryce gently scraped my nose. What are you thinking about again? Silly girl. You're so wonderful. I can't wait to hold you tight. I'll never leave. You, 16. The Bryce family prepared a grand wedding for me. Fiona was wearing a pink puff skirt and having a great time. During a break in the wedding, Cyrus's last bit of guilt towards Fiona disappeared without a trace. Blacklist him. If any company dares to hire him, it's going against the Bryce family. The same goes for Elise. The Bryce Group is the largest enterprise in City Z, and its industry directly radiates across the country. Unless Cyrus goes abroad, he won't be able to find a decent company in the country. I heard that Cyrus could no longer stay in City Z and had to return to that small mountain village, doing a job that paid 2 or 3,000 yuan a month. After my mother-in-law slunk back to the village, she was laughed at by the villagers, and because she got into a fierce argument with someone again, she accidentally had a cerebral hemorrhage and a stroke, and Elise immediately abandoned Cyrus and ran away with a coal boss. I don't know what happened after that, because I'm about to start a global honeymoon trip with Bryce. Next, I'm going to enjoy my life to the fullest.